Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about Donald Trump again. Now, I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to watch this video with Destiny, who's going to debate against 25 Trump supporters. I'm sure the Trump supporters will not win. I don't expect them to even make a valid argument throughout. But with that said, moving forward, as we come to the election, vote Kamala Harris. As we do this and as we move forward with the new president, I am done being upset about MAGA supporters. I do think they're a cult. I'm not gonna lie, I hate Donald Trump and what he's done to America and him as a candidate. And this is not due to any other reason, but based off his own actions. But I'm gonna move forward. I'm not gonna get too angry. Try to be a little bit more nuanced, see if anything is valid. I do understand why MAGA people believe what they believe. They're fed information. They're dissatisfied with their current situation despite everything actually getting better. But based on how social media has done, and one underrated kind of part of this is people are constantly fed information about individuals who are just like them but are living these glorious lives, and that's being fed into them constantly. There used to be somewhat of a distinction between Hollywood and people on TV versus the normal person, but now people get millions of views. Just be random people doing nothing spectacular. A lot of these people aren't doing anything crazy, but they're getting famous, they're getting rich. So even though everything is better, seeing these people constantly on social media has made people more and more bitter about their own living situation. Um, and I do think that's an underrated part on why people feel the way they feel. So with that said, let's dive right into Destiny versus 25 Trump supporters.
And I think you guys are obsessed with a cult leader who is taking the entire Republican Party off of a cliff.
Everything he say he do. Trump is gangster. Remember.
Can you give me one thing you don't like about Trump?
I love everything about
I know,
Trump.
because it's a cult. Thank you.
It's not a cult.
Hey, my name is Stephen Bonnell. Online, I'm known as Destiny. I debate politics on YouTube.
Mind than simply walking onto the property, right? Can you concede that point?
That it is destructive and undermines our peaceful transfer of power. I think that being able
Donald
to
Trump is unfit to be the U.S. president. First one. This should be. Let's see how this conversation goes.
Lost an election is really important. So I would argue that the events that took place leading up to and on January 6th are in and of themselves, among a whole bunch of other actions, immediately disqualifying for the office of presidency.
Okay, so Steve, let's talk about January 6th. What happened that day in your mind, and why does that disqualify President Trump?
I think that Donald Trump was unwilling to accept the results of the elections. I think that he fabricated slates of electors in order to have his vice president pick him to be the winner in the Capitol building on January 6th, even though he didn't have the votes or the evidence to support it. I think that is a wholly undemocratic thing. I think that it is destructive and undermines our democratic process of governance.
Do you attribute the violence on January 6th to Trump?
Largely, yes.
Okay, why?
I think that Donald Trump had been stoking the flames a year before the election, saying that the election was going to be rigged. I think that Donald Trump stoked all of these claims basically with no evidence, and then I think that he continued to stoke the flames while fabricating them, that the election had been stolen, that there was voter fraud, and then he invited people on the day of the certification, telling them that their election had been stolen, their country was being taken from them, they needed to fight like hell, that they were going to lose everything. He knew what he was inviting them there for. He knew what he was asking them to do. He knew, yeah.
He also told them to go down to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically.
The condescending smile. I heard a good point. The Trumpists, they ignore everything beforehand in terms of, everything that Trump's done. They ignore it. They don't care about any of the sentiment that he's instilled into people. They don't care that he's been told people to fight like hell. They don't care. As long as he says one statement that they can attach themselves to, that's all that matters. It is interesting when someone says, like, someone made this point. If someone says like 50 terrible things that makes people think a certain way and says only one thing that is supposed to be a positive, the fact that they are even equivalent in terms of the overall rhetoric that is being espoused is ridiculous. But that's all it takes for MAGA. That's all it takes. As long as I say one statement, I can call you the worst thing. I can go up to you. I can go up to your mother. I could say she's fat, she's ugly, she's a SLUT, she's the terrible person. You shouldn't have been born. She should have swallowed you. I can say the worst things of all time, as long as I say one statement saying, but overall, she's a good mother. Based off MAGA's logic, everything I say means nothing. As long as I said, but she's a good mother. All that other stuff, irrelevant.
Periodically, right? What time did
did.
protesters first go into the Capitol? What time did they first enter the Capitol?
I think it was around 10 a.m. I
So
think
it's
is when the
2:11
Capitol grounds were breached.
No, 2:11 p.m.
No,
No,
to be
2:11
clear, that's not true.
2:11 p.m. is when protesters first entered the United States Capitol.
There's the grounds that were secured outside, though.
Okay.
Those grounds were breached while Trump was still giving his speech at the Ellipse.
Okay, let's talk about the entrance of the Capitol, because that would be more severe in your mind than simply walking onto the property, right? Can you concede that point?
Probably not. I think they were all really bad, but yeah.
Okay, well, entering the Capitol, let's just mark that point. 2:11, what should Trump have done at that point?
As soon as the Capitol grounds themselves were breached, he probably should have put out a statement on social media telling people that they needed to go home instead of telling them that Pence had failed them and basically encouraging the violence to continue.
So what if I told you at 2:38 p.m. President Trump tweeted, "Stay peaceful"? He tweeted that to his supporters, "Stay peaceful."
He tweeted that-
27 minutes later.
He tweeted that after Ashley Babbitt, I believe, had already been shot and killed.
Okay,
So what does it mean when you tell your people to stay peaceful? They're not being peaceful. That doesn't make any sense,
p.m.
right?
2:38 p.m. 27 minutes after the Capitol protesters had entered, he said, "Stay peaceful." Okay, at 3:13 he said, "Law and order." At 4:17 he posted a video saying, "Go home now." So what?
The fact that just because he named timestamps and said it in a very convincing tone does not make the facts that he's saying a sufficient enough reasoning in terms of eliciting that Donald Trump was acting in good faith on that day. From 2:11 to 4:17, take 2 hours to tell them to go home is crazy. But if they telling someone to be peaceful after someone got shot is crazy. The moment someone should have got shot, you should have told them to go home. The moment they breached the ground, you should have told them to go home. But that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to MAGA.
On earth was he supposed to have done? I'm not happy about some of the violence that we saw on January 6th, but let's put it in context.
Well,
Steve.
wait,
your
you just
context
said
is
it.
not good.
You just said what he should have done. The tweet that he did at 4:17.
No,
he
that
should
was
have
a
done
video. That was the third call.
It was no.
for
It was
folks
it was the first time that he told them to go home.
stay peaceful 27 minutes after the Capitol protested entered the Capitol.
After Ashley Babbitt had already been shot and killed, they weren't being peaceful. Why are we saying stay peaceful?
How many
At this point,
protesters
Pence
were
had
there?
already been.
How many protesters
doesn't
were
matter.
there on
This is a
January
red
6th?
herring.
How many?
Hold on. Do you acknowledge that people broke into the Capitol?
What do you mean by break into the Capitol?
As in smashed. They entered it illegally. They broke down
100,000
barricades.
people
What-
were there that day. How many were charged with crimes? 100,000 people there. How many charged with crimes?
Do you acknowledge that people
How
broke
many
into
were
the
charged with
Capitol?
crimes then?
How many people in the BLM riots were charged with crimes? This is a red herring.
No, it's
How
not.
many people? Who?
You said they're violent.
Did
How many
they-
were there that day? 100,000. How many were charged with crimes? It's the largest FBI investigation history. 1,553
It's not relevant at all.
have been
It's
charged
not
with crimes.
relevant.
How
It's
can you
not
say they were all
relevant.
violent?
It's not relevant.
How can you say they were all violent?
That's not
The
what he
first
said.
people that got into the Capitol, did they
Is
break
January
in?
6th your only
Did they
reason
break
why he's
in?
unfit?
Wait.
No,
Did the
he's
first
trying
people
to
in the
skirt
Capitol
away
break
from
in?
it. He's getting
Is
cooked.
January 6th the only
He's trying to
reason
skirt
he's
away
unfit?
from it.
Are you unwilling to answer that question?
Is January 6th the only
Are you
reason?
unwilling to answer? You can say yes, you don't want to answer it, and then move on because you know the implications are terrible for you. That's
Listen,
fine if you want
The reality
to.
of the situation is
The reality of the situation is people
What
broke
is
into
the
the
number
Capitol.
one voter
They
for
delayed.
voters? What is the
They
number-
delayed the
This
certification.
dude's trying very hard to be Michael Knowles. The condescending smile every time he thinks he's saying something good. When in reality, he's backtracking. He's getting put into a corner. And now he's trying to leave the conversation. That's tough. That's very tough.
What is the number one issue for voters?
They delayed the certification of
the
the vote.
number one
Did they
issue?
not?
He's trying to move over to
It doesn't.
immigration.
The vote was certified. Was it not certified?
Was there a delay in the certification?
Was there not?
Oh, he watches the Daily Wire. He acts like Michael Knowles. Now he's saying a point of Ben Shapiro when Ben Shapiro said it was eventually certified. He's a Daily Wire watcher. That's obvious. Okay.
delay in the
Certified.
certification. It
It's
was
absolutely
because the
certified.
National Guard showed up and they kicked the people out after Donald Trump was forced to tell them they were going home after watching them
is-
break in for 3 hours
what
and
is
do
the-
nothing. By your own
Let's just
admission,
have a
they
let's
said.
have a productive
No,
conversation.
we're not having
You're
a
not.
because you're not answering any of my
You
questions.
keep going. Okay.
Yeah, I asked you a very simple question. The first person that got into the Capitol who wasn't allowed in, how did he get in?
They walked into the Capitol.
No, they broke in with a riot shield that he's stolen from an officer.
Okay, and that makes President Trump unfit for office.
Do you acknowledge that that happened? Are we living in the same reality right now? Do you acknowledge that
there
that
was
happened?
violence on January 6th. I acknowledge that. There was 100,000
You see how I'm making a
protesters.
specific claim?
1,500.
Do you know what 1 + 1 is?
I do.
What is 1 + 1?
I think it's 2.
Okay, good. Okay,
I think.
we can answer a
But
question.
math
Okay,
is
let's get- wait.
racist. Math is racist,
The first person that got
Yeah.
into the Capitol building, how did they get in?
You are arguing that Trump is
Hey, let's
unfit.
try this. Do you know what 2 + 2 is?
I
4.
well,
Who
I
was the
think-
first person into the Capitol building? How did he get in? Why not just
Listen,
say he broke in?
Is your entire argument about January 6th yes or no?
Well, my biggest argument right now is that conservatives are delusional and they don't exist in the same reality that we
Why
do.
must
So
you
any other
attack? Why must you attack
Pause.
75 million voters?
Pause. You've
That's
been voted out by
pathetic.
the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
That was, he tried it. He thought he was gonna go school destiny, and he got railed through. We'll see. Let's see if the second one does better.
Hi, how's it going?
I seen some of this guy's
Yeah.
stuff.
So-
I saw a Jubilee video of this guy, and he's talking about LGBTQ issues, and there's some stuff I actually agree with, of course, because I am not a leftist. I don't agree with everything the lefties say. So we'll see how this goes, though.
You don't think Donald Trump is fit for office based on January 6th.
Among
However,
other things, yeah.
we have to admit that January 6th was compromised. There were patriots and there was Antifa. There were people
No.
who were, yes, there were
there
actually.
were not.
I have video of it.
Thousands of Trumpers violently forced their way into the U.S. Capitol building in order to stop the certification of the presidential election. Claims that Antifa members were involved are false and have been debunked. So, this guy's about to get destroyed too. So we'll see.
Don't argue it. Don't argue me because I actually have video of people who were on the ground. I have video of people in black bloc getting dressed up in MAGA gear.
Okay.
And
it's
according
1420.
to
First of all, you don't have the video, but let's see how long
I
this
do
takes.
have the video,
Who
and
was the
according-
first person to break into the Capitol? Was it Antifa?
It was an Antifa person. Yes, it was.
You're
And
wrong.
it's actually, if you read Andy No's book about Antifa
don't need to
Unmasked,
read Andy
it
No's
actually
book.
talks about how they use the premise
So
of a
this
broken
guy
window
is-
to then allow other
this
people
guy
to
is
come in because
a,
people are a
delusional,
mass.
so.
They're a group. They're like a herd of cows. And when there's a broken window,
So this guy is delusional too. He's just blaming Antifa and everything. So, unfortunately, lost respect for this guy. That's unfortunate. We'll see how this goes though.
they don't see anything wrong with walking into a building if the window's already broken. They
I
use
thought
this-
conservatives were the
they
party of
use-
law and order.
but they
If you were
use this-
outside somebody's house and you saw somebody breaking, do you
This
think you could walk
example,
in
this
afterwards?
example is even continued through BLM and the riots
We're not
of
talking about
2020.
BLM
but
right now.
The
Although I'm glad it
pattern
took
is
us
the same.
40 seconds. It's
The
not the
pattern
same
in
pattern.
2020 is the same that happened in January 6th, where you had innocent people moving into a facility that they didn't know that it was wrong because the doors were already
They
open.
didn't know
So
it
you're
was wrong
already-
to
They were
walk in
there
the
was
White House.
broken glass on the floor.
We also have the
There was doors that were being broken into.
Yes, by people
Everybody
who were
knew when
dressed
they
up
were going
as
in there.
MAGA were not MAGA.
Oh,
you
okay.
have
So
that-
were all of the indictments and the convictions for people like Enrique Tarrio, for Stuart Rhodes, all
So-
these people that have been
okay, so
directly
then
involved,
which
all the
one of
video
these
footage
people-
of
which
breaking...
one of these people was his commander? Name one of the commanders of the insurrection.
Enrique Tarrio was the CEO of the Proud Boys. Stuart Rhodes was the CEO.
Is he a commander?
was the-
Is he a commander in the
I don't know what their
insurrection?
official military
name the
roles
lieutenant in
were.
the insurrection.
Why do I have to
Any-
name the
An insurrection is going to have people like commanders, generals, captains.
That's
people,
just not true.
No, it
He's just
doesn't
Yes,
make
making
it
sense
does.
at all.
stuff up.
But the Proud
Absolutely
Boys
it
had a
does.
leadership
Yes, it
structure. If
does,
you'd like, you
because
can go
there
and
is-
read the
because
indictments.
there
You can
was
find the
no-
structure.
There was no leadership structure. It can't be an insurrection if there
So
is
he's
no
just
leadership
lying,
structure. You can't
deliberately
even
lying.
name one of Donald Trump's commanders in this.
I don't
And then
need.
this
They're
gentleman-
all
this
listed in the
gentleman
indictments. I already
told
gave you the
that
CEO
Donald Trump-
of the
that
Proud
Donald
Boys.
Trump-
They're the ones that
Donald
broke in.
Trump made 4 tweets,
So-
and those
This guy, so the way MAGA is talking, his strategy is to ignore everything Destiny says, create his own definition of how things should be, and completely ignore all the facts. Okay. All right, 0 for 2, MAGA.
4
0
tweets
for
didn't
2.
even make it out of his sphere because they were immediately suppressed by the media.
They weren't suppressed at
yes,
all.
They were
He
deleted.
sat-
I'm gonna have
They
to
were
speed it up
deleted.
because
They
the
were
2
deleted
hours
by
is a
Twitter.
long
Those
time.
tweets. He brought
Sorry,
them out
I'll
on
speed it up a
stage
little bit.
on his town hall and said, "Look, here are the tweets that you deleted." How do you explain that?
1.25.
Other
That's
than
a
You
little
a
bit
explained
fast.
fascist
I
system
can
who
explain.
doesn't want
I
Donald
can
Trump.
explain. Yeah, the calls for peace came 3 hours.
No, they
while
didn't.
wait. So do you
just
wait?
told you
Do you
that it came
acknowledge?
22
Do you
minutes.
acknowledge that Donald Trump sat in his room for 3 hours before he told people to go home, watching the
Donald
violence
Trump
unfold?
gave a
You won't
speech.
answer a question.
Donald Trump gave
I don't
a
care.
speech.
I don't
You
care.
don't care about the
I
facts
don't.
then.
No. I'm the one. I'm asking a very simple question.
don't care
can't
about
answer.
facts.
I can answer your question if you answer my question. Do you acknowledge that he sat for 3 hours?
No, he didn't sit for
watching,
3 hours because he gave a speech during those 3 hours.
No, at the very
Yes, he did.
end, he went after the Ellipse speech was done. He went back to the White House, and then he sat in a room with a Diet Coke, and he watched the violence unfold.
How do you know this?
Because it's accounted
Were you
for
there?
by like testimony.
Were you there?
How do you know what's happening at the border? What's happening in China? Are you there? What do you mean?
Actually, this gentleman is actually.
Hold on. Are you? I'm sorry. Is your claim that the only way that you can know something is if you personally
But you're
witnessed
making
it?
these claims that he sat there. And
I'm
did
making this
nothing.
claim based
Well,
on
I'm telling you
hundreds of
that he
hours of
tweeted over and
deposition
over again,
testimony
tell his
by people that have been in
supporters
front of a
to
number of
homosexuality
courts, in front of the J6 committee, in front of the media, in front of the.
Okay,
There are so
pause.
many different people that are willing to testify to all of this.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you.
Please return to your seats.
Hey, what's up?
So I think that, we've been talking about January 6th. I'll be the first to say that, and I think a lot of people here would agree that there were bad actors that day. I'm someone who comes from a family of law enforcement, family of military, so I believe in law and order, and so I do believe that there were people on that day who took things way
All
too
right,
far, and I
let's see
think
if we can find
most
common
Republicans
ground.
understand that. From people that
I
I
don't-
talk
I
to on
don't
the
agree
ground,
that most
I think that the
Republicans
media
understand that,
blew it
but
up into
come on.
something bigger than it was. Again, I'm not saying that people who broke into the Capitol shouldn't have, but I do believe that there's a lot of people who are misled. There's evidence that's coming out with all the tapes that are coming out from January 6th, showing police officers were actually escorting people through the hallways. So to say that every single person who entered that building is, a criminal, I think a lot of people.
I don't think he
Just to
said
be clear,
every
that's
person.
never been my claim. That every single person entered was the building is such a boring and uninteresting. I would never waste my time making it.
Okay.
The reality was, I do agree with you on your fundamental. There were a lot of people that were misled. I do agree with that, and I think that Donald Trump was behind that misleading the entire time. The people were there because he was tweeting out at them saying, "Come here for a historic protest." It was obvious what the protest was going to be. They were protesting the certification of the vote, and what happened.
President
happened,
Trump
yeah.
never told anyone to break into the Capitol. President Trump has always run on a campaign of law and order
No, he
and to
hasn't.
respect his police. Okay, where has he? Where's your evidence of that?
The whole plot on January 6th was to break the law, to have Mike Pence choose him to be the president.
At what point did President Trump tell people to break into the Capitol?
No,
and to
when
do
he
what
wanted
happened?
Pence to choose him to be the president.
No, but talking about breaking the law.
That's breaking the law. The law was the Electoral
But
Count
what
Act.
you're
He wanted to
saying-
break that
no,
law.
What you're saying is that you had that he was inciting an insurrection.
Was saying that as well, yeah.
He was inciting an insurrection and telling people to basically
People they needed
break
to
in.
fight like hell, or they were going to lose their country. He
Okay,
said that they
well,
needed more.
how does that have anything to do with breaking into the Capitol? Yes,
I think
again,
it was just,
there
so
are
then here,
bad
let me just
actors.
so just to be clear. So he told people to go to J6 because it would be a historic something, a historic event. When they all got there and they showed up at his speech at the Ellipse for an hour, he riles them up, telling them they're going to lose their country, that they're trying to steal it from you, that you fight like hell. Giuliani was just on there before saying trial by combat. He said all these things, and then all these people, he said, we're going to march down Pennsylvania. They all marched to the Capitol.
Is there anything wrong with protesting outside
I'm
of the
just
Capitol?
asking, was the fact that there was a break into the Capitol and for the first time in U.S. history, the vote certificate was delayed? Was that just a coincidence?
Okay,
Is that,
okay,
was that,
so-
wait,
so
was
going
that a,
back-
I just
okay,
want to know that before you ask a bunch of random questions. Was it just a coincidence that a break-in happened and the vote was delayed? Was that a
Look,
coincidence?
because people broke into the Capitol, that can't be blamed on President Trump. He is
So it
always,
was a coincidence.
President Trump
Can
has
you say that? Can you
President,
imagine you hear yourself
President
say it was
Trump
a
has
coincidence?
always ran on
It
law
was
and
a
order
coincidence
and for
then.
people. And
So it
yes,
was a
there were
coincidence.
bad
Say it was a coincidence then. It was a
actors. But
coincidence.
moving.
So he's getting cooked. He's saying when you keep on repeating the same thing, you really have nothing of substance to say. So you repeat the same thing because it just works in your mind. It refreshes your mind that no, Trump can't be that way. He's always done it with law and order. No, he can't. So it refreshes your minds to reestablish the hive mind thought process. So just let you know what's going through this guy's mind.
Let's move to the
This is
certification.
insane.
No.
You understand this is crazy,
Let's move
right?
to
You're not- you have nothing about you
okay,
as law and
in
order.
2016,
You think your family is
in
law
2000,
enforcement? This is
in 2016, I've already said that there were bad actors. In 2016, Democrats questioned the election of
No.
President Trump. Yes,
No.
they did.
My claim has never
Sheila
been
Jackson.
about- my claim-
Sheila
when did Hillary
Jackson.
Clinton concede? He's not going to answer this question.
No,
either.
Sheila Jackson.
Won't answer it. I'm going to ask it again.
Sheila Jackson, and two other Democrats had spoke and said that they were going to question and to hopefully delay the certification in 2016 when President Trump was elected. And
When did Hillary
and we
Clinton
look-
concede?
And look,
The
and
answer
through
is
all
that
this
night,
time-
right?
and-
The answer is that
and
night.
through
Was the
all this
certification
time-
of the vote delayed?
Okay, so
The
then
answer is no, it
there
wasn't.
are questions.
Was there a riot at the
Okay,
Capitol?
I'm
The
from
answer is
Ari-
no,
I am
right? So
from-
none of
I
what
am
you're
from
saying is
Arizona.
relevant here. Yeah.
I am from Arizona. I was in the middle of the elections in 2022. I've been there. I saw what happened in 2020. There are serious questions about what
No,
is
there
happening.
aren't. There's,
But
you
I-
think there
okay,
are
okay,
because
hold on,
Trump
hold
has
on.
brainwashed
Okay,
you
I'm from
believing it.
Arizona.
I
I've
don't
worked
care if
in
you're from
this.
Arizona. I don't care that you worked
I
in it.
worked in politics.
Every single
I
court case
understand
on
how
this
this
failed
is-
for good
Okay,
reason, right?
It's failed on standing.
No, that's not
Yes,
true. A lot of them are
yes, it-
evidentiary,
it
number
is
one. And number
failed on
two,
standing.
wait, do you agree that
Hold on,
standing
hold
is
on.
important for a
Let me
case?
get to my point. Let me get to
You
my
have
point.
no point. You're
Yes, I
fabricating
do.
information
No,
real
I am-
time in
but
4K.
There is
Or maybe
serious.
1080p if that's the broadcast
There's
then.
Okay, pause.
serious questions.
You've been voted out by the
That's all
majority.
for
Please
three.
return to your seats.
Let's see who's up next. Nobody wants to go up now.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
I just have questions. I like to ask people questions. I'm interested in hearing how people think. So when you're
These questions are going to be very condescending. I can already tell. Well, let's
talking
see.
about the insurrection on January 6th, what would you describe during when Kavanaugh was elected to Supreme Court? and he
Okay,
had
so a bunch of questions that are about other situations and that are whataboutisms. Okay, whataboutisms to prove that your logic is faulty. Very useful strategy, that probably the go-to strategy for MAGA. Probably.
All the protesters at the Capitol, they were banging on the Capitol doors, they were screaming, they were yelling. How do you feel about that?
I would have to know the specifics of the event. I don't recall like any like proceedings being delayed. I don't recall there being a top-down call from the president.
Protesters were promptly removed each time and never physically impeded the proceedings.
To lead
You don't
these
remember that
particular-
they had to stop the congressional meetings because people were banging on the door and being so loud and trying to
How long
break
did they
into
stop
the
their
doors?
proceedings for? If they did, then
sorry?
it's bad.
Yeah,
wait, just
I
to be clear,
agree.
wait, just to be clear, this is the difference between me and you, okay? Is that if everything you're telling me is true,
Oh, I'm a
wait,
female. I'm a female.
You're
So
a
that's
Make America
obviously.
Great
I'm
Again
a,
hat,
I'm a
okay.
female. Yeah, I just
Okay.
put it on. I had a
That's
cowgirl
the
hat
difference
on.
that I'm talking about. I don't
So I'm
think
a
you're
female.
woman
I'm a female. And
Okay, see, the condescending nature is already going, because obviously that he's not saying that we're the same person. It's stupid. Over 5.
you're a male, and it's almost like you're attacking me because I'm a female.
I'm
Are
not
you
attacking you at all.
anti-female? Are you anti-female?
Half the time I am, okay?
I-
What I'm
okay,
saying right
at
now,
least you're honest. At least
I'm very
at
honest.
least
But
you're
what I'm
honest.
saying, yes, I am honest, which is why I'm saying that if
Sweetie,
this happened,
sweetie,
if
can I
this
ask you
happened-
another question?
I didn't even answer your first question.
No, you said that you didn't know the specifics.
Yes,
That
but
is the answer, so
what
I'm not
I'll
going to
tell
force.
you is
I'm not going to force you into a yes or no.
I promise you can't force you to do anything.
Okay, I'm not.
If
I,
it,
so that goes
if
the
it
same
happened
way.
as
I
you
have
said, I
another
would say
question.
that's
I have
bad.
another-
And you know what? The
I
people
agree
involved
with
should
you.
be arrested.
You're still yelling, and I agree with you.
I'm not yelling.
I
I'm not
agree.
opposed to yelling at. I can if you want me
Well, I'm
to.
glad you are protecting your voice because I couldn't hear you before.
Okay.
So I can definitely hear you now.
You could do the maybe hair behind your ears. Go ahead.
You want my hair behind my ears?
If it's inhibiting your ability to hear me speak, yes.
Well, actually, it's because you need the bottom of your. I'm in the medical field, so the bottom of your tongue needs to be clipped. So that's the reason why you have a lisp when you're talking.
Okay,
Anyway, if you want medical advice, I can do that, but it's better to be private
I'm
on
good.
that.
If
So
I need
I have
some
another question.
psychiatrist
So we
advice, yeah.
agree that during the Kavanaugh trials, if people were trying to break into the Supreme Court,
It would be a
that's
bad
bad.
thing,
I
yeah.
agree with you on that,
Uh-huh.
sweetie. So, and the next thing is, I have a question for you because you also brought up border and immigration.
He doesn't agree with that. That was, I mean, these are try to trap questions. Whataboutisms? They try. The fact check says she's lying. So, I mean, there's really not much
Right?
to say beyond this.
Well, I
What would
haven't,
you
but
say?
I'm see you want
Actually,
yeah.
you did. If they can play it back. So anyway, what would you say if the Biden-Harris, we have the Biden-Harris administration right now, if our border was filled with neo-Nazis with tiki torches, what would happen?
You'd probably sell a whole lot more lighter fluid. I don't know. What do you mean?
No, if
Okay,
our
pause.
border.
Pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Over 5. Okay. Now they're getting a little bit.
I hate you.
Mike,
He's a pretty intelligent
okay, I
young
want to
man.
talk
I've
about
seen some
the
stuff he
alternate
said.
slate of
Some,
electors and how historically that has happened before
It
on the
hasn't.
Democrat side.
It
Yes, it
hasn't.
has. In 1960, JFK against Nixon ran an alternate slate of electors in case it was overturned in Hawaii.
you know what I find interesting, and I don't know how I feel about this, because I do think it's somewhat valid to look up historical precedents to prove your argument, right? You try to find whatever piece of evidence possible to prove that your side is correct. Obviously, that's a useful strategy, so I can't blame that MAGA keeps on doing it. I mean, they keep on getting proven wrong, so they had to go further and further back in history to find something that even coincides with what they're talking about. I've heard this Hawaii thing before. Is it on par to the federal election? I mean, they're different processes, state elections versus federal elections. However, we will see what happens here, because I think there's some things that I'm imagining Destiny's going to say, so let's just see. if
It
it's
was
over.
eventually overturned in Hawaii, and so then those electors were certified, and JFK won the
Yeah,
state.
so I'm glad you bring this up real quick because this is one of the biggest piece of shit talking points that you guys always bring up, and I don't know why. In 1960, 2 slates of electors were authorized by the state legislature. Both were granted the certificate as
Let me read this for you. In 1960, Hawaii sent multiple state of electors to Congress due to 141. Oh, so this was the federal election, but Hawaii was the one who did it. Okay, I was incorrect. I thought it was a state election, but let's keep on going. In 1960, Hawaii sent a multiple states of electors to Congress due to a 141 vote difference between Nixon and Kennedy during a recount. As Vice President, Nixon certified the results on January 6, noting it was the first time in 100 years a losing candidate announced his opponent's victory. Very different. Noting he was the first time in 100 years a losing candidate announced his opponent's victory. Interesting. Very different from what happened on January 6th, but
ascertainment from the governor because they knew that it was a very close election and they'd authorized a recount, and because that recount was going to go past the some mid-December date, it's December 14th for the 2020 election, but some mid-December date for when they had to certify their vote. So they said, okay, well, we'll send in both certificates, and then on the day of the counting, on January, whenever they would have done the certification in Congress, then they can choose which one was authorized by the state legislature based on the results of the recount. Donald Trump's certificates were not authorized by any state legislature.
Well,
Do you acknowledge
right,
that?
well-
Wait, real quick. Do you acknowledge real quick that none of the 7 slates that were submitted by Donald Trump, none of those were authorized by any state legislature?
Can I answer?
You're not going to.
No, I am. No,
Boring
I am.
conversation.
No. They weren't certified, and why? It's because fraud wasn't found. It wasn't proven in court.
No, you're
So that's fine.
lying. You're lying. They
Wait,
weren't
so
authorized.
you're saying fraud was found? in
No,
court?
you're lying because those legislatures.
Wait, what do you say my line about?
They're lying because none of those alternate slates were arranged by the state legislatures. They were arranged by Trump and his criminal co-conspirators. None of the
Trump and his allies tried to create alternate state of electors for Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. They did that desperate, being told by lawyers, including the Attorney General, that there was no fraud sufficient enough to overturn the results. So, the Attorney General told them this. This was not proven in a court case. And they did this just because they wanted to. Okay.
state legislatures, none of the state governors authorized those slates of electors.
Okay, and what's wrong with that?
It's illegal, number one, and number two.
What law? What law says that?
You have laws that are governing how you're supposed to transmit.
What law? What law?
Do you want me to give you the specific statutes in Georgia, Arizona, New Jersey? I don't know them off the top of my head. If you want, you can.
Okay, so then that's a baseless claim.
It's not a baseless claim.
Yeah, it is.
Chesbro and Eastman
you can't
and
provide me a
all
specific.
So he got completely railroaded. So his new strategy, when you start saying ridiculous things after your initial talking point, because if Destiny did not know the facts, he was going to use this talking point. He wasn't even going to bring up what state was illegal. The reason why he entered the conversation with this talking point is to prove that there is a precedent for it. After Destiny completely debunked everything he said, his condition or his retort or his rebuttal was to say, all right, I'm SOL. What law says it's illegal? So now he's trying to justifying what Trump did by saying, well, it's not illegal, so he could do it. Over 7, Maga. Over 7.
Specific law.
Because I can't give you the state statute?
Yeah, if you can't give me a specific law, then why should I believe you? There's no justification for that. You have to provide evidence for that.
Hold on. On the contrary, are you claiming there's no formal process that's codified in the legislature for how to send transmit your electoral votes? Do they just do it randomly?
No, of course I'm saying, of course there's laws that are involved, but you can't point to the specific law that says that is.
I don't know the numbers.
And so your claim is baseless.
It's always crazy to see that you guys will carry water. Even Trump's own people don't deny this because they know that they're dead to rights because the emails have leaked, the conversations have leaked, the Twitter posts are there that we can see from their accounts.
No.
Really, what did I just say that was wrong? One thing that I just said that was incorrect.
You're getting upset because I'm pressing you on.
No, I'm not. You're not pressing me at all.
Yeah, you're getting upset.
Floundering.
Dude.
You're like a magic carp. You have no idea what you're talking about.
When you have to resort to personal insults, that's when you know.
Now you're getting sensitive because you tried to say that you're pressing him. So
you already said that I was lying. So you can't name a single thing I'm incorrect about. I can name multiple things you've been incorrect about. You were incorrect.
And now you're not letting me get a word. I think
I
you're just speaking for yourself. You're making yourself look foolish.
Okay, go ahead.
But okay, yeah. I mean, there's 10 seconds.
Let's go. Give me your hardest claim.
Again, it was for the same reason. You can compare the election of 1960 to 2020. It's the exact same thing. They did that in case their cases actually.
So he completely got railroaded on his first point. He tried to pivot to saying what law says it's illegal. It was a ridiculous claim. He knew that, which is why when Destiny says, are you saying that there's not a official process in terms of certifying the vote? He said, oh, of course there is. And then he went back to his original point, completely ignoring the fact that he got absolutely debunked in that back and forth. So that was 0-7. None of the Trump supporters did well. None of them. The best one, if I had to pick one, was the first guy. He did the best job. He started out pretty well with this confident to Michael Knowles style. But once it started getting into the nitty gritty and the details, he started floundering as well.
Came to fraud and they found fraud in the election.
That's time. Micah, please return to your seat.
My next claim is that Harris would be a better president for immigration and the border than Donald Trump.
Oh, this is probably going to be the most interesting one because Donald Trump's three strongest points that MAGA people attach themselves to is immigration, the economy, and foreign wars. So I'm sure the other two will be in regards to foreign wars and the economy. So we'll see how he addresses the immigration stuff.
Oh, hey, what's up?
Long time to see.
Yeah.
All right, so why would Kamala Harris be better than Trump on immigration?
Because I don't know if Trump even knows what's actually wrong with the border.
He doesn't know what do you mean by that?
I think that Republicans don't know what is happening right now with the problems with the immigration system. A lot of people think that the issue is with illegal immigration. It's not. The problem is that our asylum process is completely and totally broken right now. And the problem is the only way to rectify that is to change the laws governing, or at least some of the regulations governing the asylum process. And when there was a bill on the table to do so, Donald Trump blocked it to keep the border open for an election issue. But as it stands right now, you could have the biggest, strongest wall in the world with the best guns and all the people manning it. It would make zero difference on illegal immigration. They would still come up and claim asylum, and there's nothing you'd be able to do about it.
So do you think there's problems with illegal and illegal? That's what I'm hearing correctly?
Well, it's different classifications of immigrants, but like asylum seekers aren't technically illegal immigrants, even though Republicans call them that. When they're doing the asylum seeking process and millions of people are here waiting to hear their case, technically that's all legal, which is an issue.
Okay, but why would Kamala Harris be better than Trump? You said she understands it better. I think everybody understands the issue, but I think the Democrats and Republicans, at least the establishment, they don't want to fix the issue. So,
well, but so I don't think everyone understands the issue. So every single person sitting here doesn't believe me when I just said that the laws on the books and the asylum process are the main issue. They think it's just people illegally crossing the border, right? The reason why I think that the Democrats should do something is because
they're not enforcing laws on the books.
They are
people
enforcing.
that shouldn't be
they
here
are
are
that's
here.
the issue. They're enforcing them.
Yeah, but there are people that are illegal here and they're not being sent back.
I mean, that's a whole other deportation.
So they're not enforcing the law then?
Well, who's they?
The government.
Which one? The state governments or the federal
All of
government?
them.
Well, the federal government doesn't have the resources to go in and try and find every single potential illegal immigrant in the United States. There's a whole bunch of
Well, we
issues.
just sent how many billions to Ukraine? Like, we have the money. We can hire people. There's a lot of people in this country that can have
That's
it.
a
So the
simplistic
majority of
way
like
of thinking.
80% of the aid we send to Ukraine is in the form of like used weapons and stuff.
Right.
But secondly, it's just a matter of, even if you say we have the money for it, I mean, we would have to appropriate the funds for it and everything else to do it. Like, it's not a matter of simply saying like, oh, we're going to triple the size of the DHS or ICE or whatever to do.
But so now you're saying, so you want to be tough on immigration, right? And you think Kamala Harris is going to be tough on immigration, just generally speaking. Like, she's going to crack down on it, deport illegals, send them home.
I don't know. I'm not necessarily. I'm not talking about being tough on or deporting. I'm just saying that to fix the issue we have right now, which is way too many people coming in and claiming asylum. It's
so
not
to
good.
fix, we got to stop people coming in. So we need to
no. The issue is we need to stop the asylum process, or we need to figure out a way to make that better.
Right, but there's multiple things that need to be fixed. It's a multifarious issue. And Kamala Harris originally says that
Okay,
ISIS
pause.
is the KKK.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seats.
That was a solid conversation. I don't think there was anything of substance said there. From Destiny was making points. He wasn't really battling the points. He was just asking questions. So I'll give that one a wash.
I'm Luke, by the way.
Hi,
Nice to
what's
meet
up,
you. So I just wanted to briefly talk
I don't
about
like
talking
this
about the
guy.
Senate bill that failed the House.
Mhm.
What is your argument with that? Because as far as my knowledge with this bill, it was $118 billion. That was the financial standing within this bill. Within that, $60 billion of that $118 billion was going to go towards Ukraine. Only 20, I have the chart with me, only $20 billion was going to go towards the border.
The bipartisan border bill rejected by Republicans contained $118 billion in funding for the border and foreign aid. That includes $60 billion for Ukraine, $14 billion for Israel, $10 billion for humanitarian aid in Ukraine, Israel, and Gaza, and $20 billion for immigration enforcement. So what? What's the good argument on why this is bad? I don't think you'll be able to come up with one.
$10 billion was going to go towards Gaza. $14 billion was going to go towards Israel. This Senate bill was a bad bill, first off. And second off, it was just a disguising bill to give more money towards Ukraine. So you talk about the bill. That's
So just as a
the
real
only
quick thing,
Democrats really have.
so this is the argument that was floated initially, but the problem is they tried to reintroduce this bill on its own, and it still failed.
But the bill itself was written poorly. Within the bill, they're going to cap what is the average weekly immigrations at 5,000. That's still way too many people.
Do you know what it's capped at right now?
What is it capped at?
Nothing. That's why it was a good idea.
But 5,000 is still way too much. Why don't they cap it at?
Why
don't they cap it at less?
What they allowed
And
it
you
to
talk
do,
about
real quick, so what they
asylum.
allowed it to
Listen,
do, what
you
they
know-
allowed it to do is it allowed it to say if there were too many people.
So his argument is, yeah, we're going to give money to increase immigration, but since we're giving it to Ukraine too, bad. Who cares about immigration? Is not important enough for us to also give resources to Ukraine. So that's his first argument. Immigration is not important enough for us to also give resources to Ukraine. Okay, one. His second argument is that the cap is too high. Immigration is not important enough to have a cap. It has to be a low cap or no cap at all. That's a terrible argument too. See, MAGA, they don't think through the arguments they make. They just are told these arguments, have these arguments, spout these arguments, and don't think about the arguments that they're making. So
people coming in, they could put a 2-week moratorium and completely shut down people that were coming to the country to seek asylum.
But
that was one thing that the bill would have allowed it
Border
to do.
Patrol
That right
isn't
now they
even doing
don't
their
have the
job.
ability to do. They
And
are
these
doing
are
their
these
job.
are for
They are doing their
individuals.
job.
These are the individuals that are not or that are seeking asylum. Do you know how many individuals that seek asylum actually file their paperwork for asylum?
Well, if you're coming here to get a
no, it's less than half.
If you're coming here to get a slip to go to
they're
court, then
using
they have to.
asylum as an excuse. The process which comes with people that come for asylum The easiest and most, I guess, used process, they come typically through San Diego or Arizona. They put these individuals on a freight train, send that train to New York. They house them typically at the Roosevelt Hotel. Other hotels in New York also being used. Then they give them an identification bracelet that has a number, basically like Nazi Germany.
All of this is fine.
Please let me finish talking. It doesn't matter. I'm respecting you. Have some respect.
Okay, let's talk about the asylum process.
Okay.
Right? If Democrats wanted to allocate more money to the judges to process the claims faster, to allocate more money to border security to make sure people were coming in illegally, and then to be able to put a moratorium if too many people were coming in, wouldn't all of these things help?
If only less than 50% of people that are actually coming for asylum are filing their paperwork, none of that matters. We should be
How are you
starting
getting
off-
a slip to go to court for an asylum judge if you're not filing your paperwork?
What I'm saying is these people are using asylum as an excuse to get to America, to use our resources. Do you know how much money that we've spent? So there's two different types of immigrants.
He has talking points. His logic in the talking points he's saying are nonsense. They don't make sense. How do you have a court process? How you are scheduled to go to court without filing paperwork? That doesn't make sense. He just has talking points. It doesn't make sense. There's actually good arguments for like immigration stuff, not for Trump, because Trump just talks about immigration, but there's good arguments on a better immigration process. He just talking points. He's not saying anything of substance. But people are gonna hear him say, "Oh, I mean, they're not gonna understand that his logic just doesn't make sense."
Well, two different types of illegal immigrants. There's gotaways and
MAGA,
give-ups. Do you know what each one is?
Catch and release versus
So give-ups are individuals that typically their families are typically asylum seekers that they intentionally want to get processed through border control. Gotaways are typically criminals, which there's 14,000 murderers right now that are within our country coming through the border.
Gotaways are
alone, which are typically criminals, we are spending $450 billion a year just to support these criminals that are coming through the Gotaway process.
Okay, so all of this is great, but it returns me back to my other question. If people are doing this by abusing the asylum process, it feels like a bill would have helped, and Donald Trump has done nothing.
Because before we can have any type of bill that basically funnels down asylum versus gotaways versus give up versus criminals versus all that, you need to have a secure border.
Yeah, but let's say
that
right now,
was not going to help. That was not going to help in the securing of the border.
Let's say you secure the border $1
Yeah,
trillion.
let's not help anything. Let's not do anything to improve the immigration process until I get exactly what I want. Everything else, screw that. Because you guys don't care about immigration. You guys will care about Donald Trump winning the election. Let's be very obvious.
Tall on the wall and everything.
Okay.
Everybody else comes up and they still do the exact same asylum claiming process.
What do you mean everybody comes up?
As in you go to a port of entry and you say, hey, I'm here to claim asylum. And
if you have a closed border that has a stricter process for whoever's coming through, which one of those processes
stricter
was
process is
extremely
not gonna
effective
help.
was our Remain in Mexico Act.
So it wasn't that effective.
Yes, it was. The Biden administration revoked that act as well as 94 executive orders that Trump installed during his administration. There was a reason that our border had a 50-year all-time low. And I want to ask you a question.
So, well,
let me ask you a question, please. Do you condemn 14-year-olds being yes or no?
Number two.
Yes or no?
Number two.
He doesn't. Do you condemn 14-year-olds being
Obviously,
yes
I would condemn 14-year-olds.
I'm
not going to play this game.
You condemn Lincoln Riley's murderer who came in and murdered her, who was coming through an illegal Gotaway process. Do you condemn that?
I don't care how they got here.
Do you condemn the 321,000 missing children right now that we cannot find at the border?
I don't even think that number is real.
Yes, it is. It's 321,000 missing illegal children.
Do you understand?
I'm giving you facts right now that are presented through ICE, that are presented through FEMA, that are presented through Homeland Security.
No comprehension of the issue. It's just numbers. You're just regurgitating them. I'm asking you a very simple question. Let's say you secure the border. How does it help?
He just has talking points. He doesn't understand anything he's saying. He's just listened to a lot of not Joe Rogan. He's listened to a lot of Daily Wire. He listened to Alex Jones. He listened to Trump's speeches and just regurgitating what they're saying. He doesn't really understand any of the things that he's talking about. It's obvious because he's not applying logic to the stuff he's saying. It just
asylum process.
To get people amped up. People are dying. Kids are being trafficked.
I'm asking you a simple
question. Drugs are coming through.
If
fentanyl is at an all-time high.
90% of the fentanyl in this country comes in through legal people. It's not always trafficked into illegals. Yes, it is.
During the Biden administration, fentanyl, an average yearly pound of fentanyl is 15,000. It's exceeding 15,000. During the Trump administration, it was less than 25.
That's more numbers that have nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Yes, it's just random numbers. No, you don't understand the issue. Yes, I know they're facts.
People are dying here. All you're concerned about is trying to be right.
People are dying. The difference is I want to fix the problem. You don't. You don't.
Really, I don't.
You don't care.
Really,
you don't give
would I not care?
Because you're supporting the president that blocked the bill that would have fixed the problems. You don't give a fuck about it.
President
You
that
don't
kept
care.
our
When you
borders
see
secure.
The Rileys or the Lincoln Rileys and all these people getting killed, you're thinking, yes, it's an election issue, which is
So
what Donald Trump thought when he blocked the bill.
So you're saying I was excited like how you were excited that Corey was shot?
You're excited. You were excited when a person dies to an illegal immigrant, but when something goes to get done about it, you champion Trump when he blocks the bill.
The bill was
That's
a
it.
bad bill,
That's
period.
it. Really, what legislation did Donald Trump pass in his 4 years as president?
He had closed borders. He had the Remain in Mexico Act.
That doesn't sound like a bill. Remain in Mexico, by the way, was responsible for keeping like 10,000 immigrants away a year, which is basically nothing. Title 42 is COVID. He gets no credit for that. Next.
Title 42 allowed law enforcement.
Title 42 is gone. There's no COVID.
It wasn't COVID specific.
What do you think Title 42 was?
Title 42 allowed law enforcement to process illegals that were coming through. Now they've revoked that. If a sheriff or police officer, say there's a murderer that comes through illegally, if a police officer tries to process that guy and get him, the police officer is going to be charged with kidnapping, not the murderer. The murderer is just going to get away with this stuff. You can't own up to the facts that are actually happening of the criminals that are coming.
He thinks that it's ridiculous.
Through. If
Whatever.
someone is truly coming into this country, fleeing, say it's Venezuela, fleeing a South American country or any country that their life is truly at stake, everybody here has a heart for them.
No, you don't.
Yes, we
You're
do. And how
championing
dare you
things like
say that?
Remain in
My
Mexico.
family were immigrants.
Hold on.
So how can
If
you say
somebody-
that?
In your world, in your ideal world, if somebody was escaping one of those countries and coming to the border, you're saying keep them in Mexico until we process them. Where's the compassion there?
Mexico is 10 times safer than the country that they're
You
coming
think that the border towns
We
that
need
are
to
being
protect-
overwhelmed by
we
people
need to
coming to seek
protect
asylum? You
our
think that
own
that's
country.
Oh, there it is.
Okay,
To protect our
pause,
country. Yeah,
pause.
so there's no heart for
Pause.
the people coming
You've
in.
been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Those are all MAGA talking points. I think he did terribly, because I don't obviously buy into the MAGA rhetoric. There was no actual good logic in the things he was saying. Of course, MAGA's gonna think so because they just blindly believe everything. But there was no good logic in anything he's saying. Those are talking points. Like I said, the first guy I would say he did better, but he didn't really say anything of substance. There is actually things of substance to say. He didn't say anything. He just regurgitated talking points. So.
Jeez.
I'm glad we agree that there's a problem with the asylum system. And I actually...
Well, we don't agree. I think that, but...
Well, I'm agreeing with you that there's a problem with the asylum system.
Okay.
I actually think you care. I've been following you for a while. I actually think you deeply care about this issue and how it's affecting the American people. I do believe that sincerely. What is for the tens of millions of folks who are going to watch this video, just what does asylum as a process represent to you? What does it mean to qualify legitimately for asylum?
To legitimately qualify for asylum, there's like official characteristics for it, but basically the place that you're fleeing, you're being persecuted for some characteristic or trait that we think that you obviously shouldn't be persecuted for, and you're facing like severe threats to your existence. And so you have to flee the country, and then you're basically coming to the United States saying like, I'm basically stateless, I can't go back to my home, like me or my family's at risk, and can you, basically take me in and me become a citizen that way, basically.
That's exactly right. You're fleeing racial, religious, ethnic persecution. Absolutely. Poverty wouldn't count as asylum. It's a fact. Poverty doesn't count. You have to be fleeing a particular type of persecution. If poverty is a coincident factor there, but the persecution is key.
Sure, I'm gonna hesitantly agree with you, but like let's say you're facing poverty in like Syria, where it's like a collapsed state, then it's like I can say that being different. But in general, yeah, if you're just poor, you probably shouldn't be able to come here and seek asylum for that.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
And so that's why 90% of asylum claims are rejected. Let's talk about Remain in Mexico. You brought up that you think it was a failure, it seems.
Yes.
Why is that?
Okay, so his first point was more of a conversation. He didn't make a point. I'm gonna let him finish. I don't want to stop him.
One, I think there were a lot of lawsuits in the United States that were starting to look promising, I think, in terms of overturning it. I think the ACLU had gotten a victory in the 11th Circuit or the 9th Circuit. And then also because just the number of people that were being kept out from Remain in Mexico, I want to say the total number over, I think it was like 3 years, was like 30 or 40,000. It wasn't that many, altogether.
But isn't that actually a sign of its success because it was a successful deterrent? Think about it this way, Stephen. If you got people who are fleeing religious persecution and you got folks who are fleeing poverty, the people who are actually fleeing persecution, they will happily go to Mexico and wait for 6 months for their case to be heard.
I don't know if that's always the case.
Well, but
if you're fleeing and you literally have nothing, you're like a destitute family. Now you're sitting on like a border town, like waiting months and months, maybe for your.
But that's better than religious persecution in Syria, right? I mean,
it might be, but ideally in the United States, we could process you almost immediately, and if you have a legitimate claim, we can house you here.
Absolutely, but how do we keep the fraud out of the system? I thought Remain in Mexico, wherever you are politically, was a good way to do that. The idea was that if you're actually fleeing persecution in Syria or in East Asia or in Africa, you would be 99% better off in that camp in Mexico, where it is protected, where you have food, where you have humanitarian resources. That keeps the fraud claims out. And so to this bipartisan border bill, well, first and foremost, 9 Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren, actually voted against it. So Donald Trump didn't kill it. Donald Trump was opposed to it for the same reasons that many Republicans and some Democrats
to be clear, would that
were
bill have
opposed to it.
passed? Would that bill have passed without Donald Trump telling Republicans not to vote for it?
No, it would not have.
Okay, that's completely and totally incorrect.
What's your proof of that? Listen, let's just talk about the substance of it.
Well, the proof is that like it would have passed. People like McConnell, people like Cruz are literally saying like we're not voting on this bill because Donald Trump has told us to pull the plug on it. But the idea was that it was going to pass.
So what would that bill have done to deter the fraudulent asylum claims that are keeping out legitimate folks who are fleeing persecution?
Well, I think that right now the biggest there's an amalgamation of laws that that make it so that because the asylum system is so backed up,
This guy's performing the best. He actually made a good point in terms of if they're escaping these circumstances that we're referring to, as long as they are leaving the circumstance, any situation would be better than the circumstance that they were currently in. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be in America to be in asylum. Interesting. Very interesting point. That was actually a solid point. It really just depends on how much you care about people and what they're going through, to be honest. I'm trying to think about my own opinion in regards to it. It's tough to say. I do think that was an interesting point. I'm gonna give him marks. That's
if I go to the United States, even claim is total bullshit.
Regardless
I
if I
can run
agree, I think that's
claim
a
that
good
I'm an
point.
asylum seeker, and I know that they can't process me right now, so I get a slip saying, okay, we'll come back to court in a year or two, and it's like, I'm in, and you're done. At that point, you just disappear, right? But if they could process you almost immediately, you show up, you're like, hey, I'm a asylum seeker. It's like, oh, cool, we'll come talk to the judge. You're like, okay, well, f me. Then the motivation to come in and try to get in fraudulently, I think, dramatically decreases. And one of the big things that the bill helped with was providing a lot more judges that would be allocated for these things and a lot more funding for it, et cetera.
So just to correct that point, there weren't actually judges. They were funding custom officers who don't have law degrees, who are biased one way, who are more likely to approve asylum claims that might end up proving fraudulent. I think.
Wait, hold on. Who processes the asylum claims? Eventually, you have to sit in front of a judge.
No. And just clearly here, customs officers under the bipartisan border bill would be then given authority to process these claims. They don't have law degrees. They aren't judges. Judges typically take these cases, but in this particular bill by Langford, it would actually be customs officers.
Customs officers would make the final decision on whether or not a person gets into the
and that's
country?
how you build up capacity, because you couldn't hire more immigration judges. There aren't enough people in the country to take those
I think you can. I think the issue is that the judge number has been capped since, I think, the 80s or the 60s in terms of how many judges are allowed to hear these claims. So we haven't had more funding that was allocated
Why
to us,
not
actually.
bring back remain in Mexico? It absolutely works, Stephen.
Because I don't think it necessarily works, number one, because not that many people were kept out. And number two, even as a matter of policy, I don't know if the idea to the country to the south, he was like, hey, listen, if so many people coming to asylum, we're going to go ahead and store them in your country while we wait and process it. I don't know how even Mexico would feel about that. I don't know if the conditions would necessarily be safe for those people either. Because I thought that one of the claims that I heard so much
I'm gonna let him speak. He said something about the point regarding judges and officers. I mean, even if it was the case, right, where I take him for his word and it's the final decision is not given to judges because there's not enough. Even if I were taken for his word, just because the process becomes a little bit more streamlined and allows people who are not criminals to come in, what is wrong with that? Now, if your argument, well, if they allow them to come in, they're gonna do worse work. I think that is a very disingenuous way to look at that. So
from the Trumples was how unsafe all of these like border towns had become because of so many people building up there. So why would you want to stick a legitimate asylum seeker there and keep them there? Would you agree that if somebody was coming here to legitimately seek asylum and it was a legitimate case, they would probably be good to take them in and house them immediately?
In an ideal world, absolutely. But we need to also separate those who are abusing the system. Again, 90% of those claims are fraudulent. But
so then shouldn't we increase the funding to process those claims as quickly as possible?
I think the deterrent is better in Mexico. But Stephen, let's agree to disagree. Okay?
Okay.
that was good. That was way better than his first go. That is by far the best one so far. By
He's
far.
been snubbed now twice, so I'm sorry. I'm going to let him have it.
Hi. What's up with that?
I'll get you next time. Okay?
So my issue with the bipartisan border bill is that it only gets activated on a mandatory basis if there are 5,000 people per day crossing the border. I agree with you that the asylum process is the problem, but that bill also expands protections for asylees or people seeking asylum, the bipartisan border bill, which is a problem. I think that HR 2 is much more effective at preventing like people abusing the legal.
HR 2 might have been more effective from
I think he's going to make the argument I was going to make it.
Because Democrats didn't want to vote for it.
Because, no, I don't even know if it would have had Republicans.
Do you think that it would be a win for Democrats if they passed HR 2? Like, politically speaking?
Probably not. That bill went much further.
You don't think that it would be good forE Biden's image?
No. I think that
really?
I would have to go back and read it because I think that bill was way more extreme in terms of like processing people. I don't think it was a very popular
bill. Yeah, it eliminated parole, which I think is a good thing. There are a couple other things, like I haven't read
it. The bill was DOA. There was no no chance in hell that was passing anything.
The bipartisan border bill was terrible too.
No, the bipartisan border bill that would have passed less Donald Trump.
Right, but it didn't address the current issue. There's about 1,000.
It did address it. It might not, you could say it might not have addressed it adequately, but it would have been a big step in that direction.
There are about, okay, yeah, right, but the issue would have to get about twice as bad as it currently is. There's about 1,900 people who cross per day currently. Under the bipartisan border bill, on a mandatory basis, the emergency powers can only be activated if 5,000 people crossed over the border daily over a 7-day period, right?
Yeah, but then after that happens, you can shut the border down for 2 weeks and process zero.
But you can only, the bill, the emergency powers given in the bill can only be used for 270 days of the first calendar year, 225 of the second, and 180 of the third. And in addition to that, if it drops below 70% of that mandatory number, 5,000, which is about 3,750, which is almost exactly double what it currently is, it gets automatically rescinded. The powers go away.
I don't believe the powers.
Yes, they do.
They have the ability.
Stephen, read the bill.
anybody come in if they're processing zero claims?
Wait, what do you mean?
If they're processing zero claims, once they
No,
hit
it's not
that
on the basis of
threshold,
it's on the basis of crossers. So 5,000.
no, but it's just on asylum claims as well. That was the nice thing about it. We don't have an issue right now with illegal immigrants coming into this country. We have a problem
we
right
do.
now.
Absolutely
I know,
we do.
yeah, stay fucking mad because you guys can't fucking read. That's fine. The problem that we have right now is with asylum seekers.
I agree with
not
you.
illegal immigrants.
I agree
right?
with you. And this
the
bill
moratorium was-
expanded protections for asylum seekers.
Yeah, but it also gave the
So
ability for the border to
your
shut down
argument
asylum.
is dead on arrival.
No,
Yeah,
2
yeah,
weeks
yeah.
shutdown. What is our moratorium right now on people claiming asylum?
I don't know what the
Zero. It's nothing.
Right.
So this would be better,
Okay.
definitionally.
Okay. You said earlier that like you were talking about I forget who it was with like the 5,000 cap on a mandatory basis or whatever. It's not a cap. That's not a cap on like.
No, it's like a 7-day rolling average.
Yeah, yeah. Let me finish. It's not a cap on how many people can come into the border. Obviously, 0 people are allowed to illegally cross the border, right?
But
wait, I'm
people
not
coming for asylum are not illegal, right? Do you acknowledge that? People coming to claim asylum.
Do let him
yes,
finish,
I agree.
Dennis.
Let me land my plane. Okay. So that's not a cap on how many people can cross the border. Obviously, it's illegal for anybody to cross the border. It's a cap on power.
Okay, pause. Sorry, time's up.
Okay.
Please return to your seat.
So you're talking, man.
I thought he would have a good one too. See, like he sounded informed. He wasn't talking points. He was talking actual logic in terms of the things that he was trying to apply to. That was interesting. He didn't really develop a lot. I would say the other guy was better, but he was good too. That
Hey,
was a good
before
one.
we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app and website that is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Their team of journalists believe that unbiased news
Straight Arrow
should be the
News.
standard and not just the exception. So
I
they report
respect it.
down the
Any-
middle with
any-
facts,
any
delivering
service
news
that
without
is
bias, filter, or spin.
somewhat
Plus, their media
objective.
mist tool allows you to discover news that's being underreported or not even reported at all by different sides of mainstream media. That's why we are so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. The work they're doing gives us a complete picture of the news straight from our phones and tablets with their app. Go to san.com/surrounded or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel, you're also supporting a group of journalists that are raising the bar on news and focusing on serving you unbiased, straight facts.
Well, you could say the supply chain, but I would say the bills that they passed
Biden-Harris
was consistently at 2%.
Donald Trump's economic plans.
See,
would increase
economy.
inflation
He's
and
also going
devastate
to talk
the
about
economy.
foreign wars as well. So
Okay.
So under the Trump administration, inflation was consistently at 2%. Under Biden-Harris, it's 5.5.
What do you think the biggest
okay,
contributor to
talking
the
points.
Biden-Harris inflation
He's
has
about to
been?
get destroyed.
Well, you could say the supply chain, but I would say the bills that they passed, the Inflation Reduction Act, had nothing to do with inflation. The only reason inflation's kind of at 2.5 now is because they raised interest rates. It has nothing to do with what they've done.
Okay, so
Nothing to do with
what
their policy.
was a huge event that probably triggered a ton of inflation because of all the knock-on effects from it? There was a really big event that happened in the past 5
You're
years.
referring to COVID?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So COVID happened. So if we look at Donald Trump's administration and we look at what he did, he ran massive budget deficits. He did nothing to cut spending. He did giant tax cuts, right? And he pressured the Fed to keep interest rates
Well,
low.
Harris adds like $1 trillion per year to the.
Yeah, but at least they can argue for why they would have deficits, right? Because they're trying to save us from a massive recession, which more or less they did.
We already hit recession a couple times.
No, not really, no.
Yeah, by the letter of the law we have.
Okay, if you want to say that we have, then it was a soft landing at worst. Okay, but it's nowhere near as bad as it could have been. But at least we were coming out of an economic crisis they probably had to spend for. Why did Donald Trump run massive budget deficits when he was sitting on a great economy that he inherited from Obama?
It wasn't a great economy.
It was an amazing economy. The stock markets were posting all-time highs for like 3 or 4 years before he even came into office.
And the guy even higher under him.
They did. They continued to grow, yes, but why did he have to run budget deficits to do that?
I mean, his tax cuts actually helped everyone. It helped me as a middle-class person.
Of course, because he did deficit spending. Deficit spending always helps. It gives you more money, yeah. But how would this ever help inflation?
Well, there was no inflation under Trump.
Yeah, because the economy and everything in the world was growing too, right? COVID hadn't shut everything down yet.
Right.
But I'm saying that Donald Trump's administration...
Even his last month in office, that was 1.4%. Biden can't even get that in his best.
Yeah, but are we going to cite like the year of COVID as like these are the...
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to be fair too, under COVID, the last few months, unemployment was terrible. So if you want to go off that too, but as soon as the country opened back up, they try to take all this credit all these jobs that were just bounced back.
Sure, and I think that's pretty stupid to say that we created as many jobs or whatever, so I'm not giving them credit for that necessarily. Of course they would. But I'm just saying that when we look at just for inflation, everything that Donald Trump talks about when he wants to come back in his next term seems like things that would just be inflationary. He wants to tariff everything.
Well, he wants to drill more, which will lower the price of everything.
We already are a world producer in energy. I don't know how much drilling more is going to help. But I mean, he also I don't even know how we'll have the people to drill because he wants to increase tariffs on every single product in the world.
Which is stuff made out of America.
What?
Which will benefit the American.
Yeah, but if it's made out of America, then what? Then who's going to be drilling when we're all busy like making clothes and making shoes and making the most basic fundamental products?
Well, not all of us, obviously. Stuff still come from overseas.
Why? He wants to tariff all of it at 50 to 1,000%.
Nah, he didn't say 1,000. He said 100.
He said a lot of numbers. In that Bloomberg interview that he did yesterday, I think he said 1,000 for some of them. But yeah, he says he wants to tariff. He said he wants to tariff everything. He said 10 or 20% was too low. He wants to manufacture everything at home.
And then when Harris went on the View and said, "Would you do anything different than Biden?" She said, "No, can't think of anything. No matter how people are struggling, how the world is, she can't think of one thing she would do."
Well, I mean, the United States is ahead of the
Okay,
rest.
pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your
Destiny
seats.
won. He didn't really say anything.
Jesus.
Now, Stephen, that was very inflationary. Okay, that was very high.
Well, hold on. To be clear, I'm not a huge fan of just like stimulus stuff because I think it has a lot of inflationary pressures.
Sure.
I think forgiving student loan debt, I think would also be massively inflationary in a lot of bad ways.
Massively.
But none of those even come close to the total economic destruction that would be wrought on this country with across the board universal tariffs to every country in the world.
Were you concerned by the tariffs in the first term?
Yes.
Okay. Why didn't we see the inflation in the first term under Trump under these tariffs that you're so concerned about?
Because I think that raising prices and everything can kind of be masked through the allocation of money to other assets, especially when the economy is growing. So the world economy is growing, right? Because a lot of people can buy things, a lot of money can transfer to a lot of different places. Inflation has to do with dollars chasing supplies of goods, basically. And if the supplies continue to grow at a really high rate, you can probably afford more deficit spending. But the issue is that I don't think that Donald Trump was intelligently saying, like, well, I can probably afford a deficit spend here because of the economy. I think he just likes to spend because everybody does. And I don't think that Trump would have the ability to rein it in, as he said multiple times in his Bloomberg interview yesterday. But also, like, the big event that was contributing to inflation over the Biden administration was probably COVID and a lot of the knock-on stuff from COVID.
American Rescue Plan, for example, the unemployment rate had already been cut in half. 100 million people had immunity to the virus, and yet we put $2 trillion of heroin into the economy.
The United States is also outperforming every single other G7 OECD country when it comes to metrics like inflation and how our economy is doing as well. So I think we probably made the right choice there, right?
Well, Stephen,
wait, would you say we made the right choice where? With like the American...
I disagree. I disagree.
Okay. So which country should we have acted like?
Well, I'm going to hold ourselves to the American standard, which is to always do the best thing and not to compare ourselves to others.
Okay,
Listen,
so we are outperforming everybody else, but you think we should be doing even better. Okay.
Stephen, if I'm the best alcoholic in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I don't want to be...
So he has this imaginary vision of how the United States should be, despite us performing better than everybody else. And this imaginary vision because he's the genius, he thinks the country should have done way better, even though we're the best in terms of recovering from COVID. Like this standard that they are putting for America, and they think that Donald Trump is going to create fucking the Garden of Eden with America. It's ridiculous. He did better in the other debate. This is ridiculous.
Be the best of the worst. I wouldn't be the
This is
best
a ridiculous
compared to my own standard.
Okay, but to be clear, you're talking about a world where every single person is apparently an alcoholic.
Stephen.
I'm just saying that you're trying to point to an economic policy you can't point to in any other country in the world.
Stephen.
And we measure things
8.5 million Americans
relational to other countries, and the fact that we did
I haven't
better than
interrupted
every
you.
single
I
other
haven't interrupted you. With all
country.
respect, I haven't interrupted
Okay.
you. 8.5 million people are working multiple jobs to keep up with inflation. You've got 7 million prime working age men who are not in the labor force. 37% of Americans.
So you're just going to talk about all the negatives, remove context, talk about all the negatives that Joe Biden had to deal with because of COVID, but you don't care. Context irrelevant, all that irrelevant. Okay. I mean, sometimes he's good, but his immigration one was good. Has some good points. I guarantee the Daily Wire probably told him those points. This point right here is stupid. It's so dumb. Oh my goodness.
And say that their children's life will not be better than theirs. This economy is hurting a lot of people right now. Do you accept that?
No. What's Donald Trump going to do to improve that economy?
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Let's just talk about that for a moment with all sincerity.
Sure.
What problem does tariffs try to address, Stephen?
In Donald Trump's world, or what? That's a very general question.
Objective speaking, when you look at tariffs, what does it try to solve for?
Tariffs can be levied for a variety of different reasons. The two most common reasons that are given is that one, it can be foolishly employed to try to protect an industry. So you would tariff other people to make your own industries more competitive. These require across-the-board tariffs, so not specific ones. And then a second reason could be for issues relating to, say, like national security. So for instance, I want to tariff these people's abilities to manufacture microchips or steel, not because I think we'll be economically better off, but because if we get into war with them, I don't want to be relying on them for press.
I think the latter case makes a lot of sense, by the way. If you get to war with China, now listen.
Although I would be honest about the latter one and say we don't do it for economic reasons, we do it for security reasons.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. And I agree with you on that. Does China have tariffs on us? Yes. Does Europe have tariffs on us? Yes. It's not free trade when they're rigging it against us and charging us to send our products over there. So the question is, Stephen, if they're putting tariffs on us, hurting our workers, hollowing out places from Middletown, Ohio to parts of Appalachia, why can't we put in place a deterrent that says, look, if you're going to rig the system against American workers, we are going to level the playing field.
There's an easy rebuttal.
If this was real quick,
Stephen, I want to Stephen.
You asked me a question. You asked me a question. Whatever economic plan or whatever you're talking about using tariffs, sure, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Whatever you're saying, that was nothing to do with the Trump administration. What you're saying is you're talking about getting into a tariff war to try to bring tariffs down or to force somebody to engage in negotiations to bring tariff down in order to re-enter trade agreements. Kind of like when Donald Trump renegotiated NAFTA into the U.S. Mexico-Canada trade agreement, right? But however, but you can't just say Donald Trump doesn't
use the threat of tariffs to
great,
bring them to
but
the
Donald
negotiating
Trump is
table.
not talking about using tariffs to get more people to negotiate. He wants to create an autarky. That's his goal. Do you acknowledge that Donald Trump wants us to manufacture everything at home? That's all of his rhetoric. Do you acknowledge? He doesn't say that. Okay.
No, Stephen, just one second.
Yeah.
He wants us.
I mean, Destiny, you could have done way better in that. I mean, his point is kind of null and void, especially considering he wants to put a tariff on 20% tariffs on all goods. I mean, ultimately, tariffs should be used sparingly for the reasons that Destiny has referred to, right? And if someone has a tariff on us first, sure. But if you do across-the-board tariffs, then at that point, you were enacting, putting yourself on the table to be more of to put yourself in a situation where you are now instigating the tariff war, so to speak, because it's across the board, and two, that will heavily impact and hurt the economy in America, right? So, I mean, Destiny could have just said that point in a more elaborate fashion in the midst of this conversation, and I don't think he would have rebuttal because there's the MAGA talking points go to a point, but when they are giving a fact that is that is the actual substance of what is going on, they flounder every single time.
To employ the working men and women of this country to give them a fair shot. We're losing 100,000 people to opioids every year. We're losing 900 people.
We're already below what the employment should be. We're already below 5%.
Stephen, 7 million working age men are not in the labor force.
That's a great number. I don't know what that number. Hold on. Do you acknowledge that?
Hold on. Stephen, just one sec. Half of working age men who are not in the labor force are taking opioid painkillers every day. The broken industrial policies of this country,
you think having
from
them
George
manufacture
Bush
shoes that
to
aren't
Bill
being made in
Clinton,
China is going to magically get rid of that problem?
No, Stephen. No. Does New Balance make in America? Yes or no? Does New Balance make in America?
I don't know. For the final assembly, maybe? Okay.
Yes, they do. But here's the thing,
What was the point of that?
Stephen. Do
you think that we can manufacture every single good we
No,
consume
I don't
at
think
home?
so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
What is the goal of 1,000 or 500 or whatever? 100%?
Where are Teslas made? Where are Teslas made? Where's the best-selling car in America made? In the world, rather. Where's it made?
I don't. When you say
right
where's
here in
it-
America.
Hold on.
Right
What do you
here in
mean by that?
America.
Every single part?
No, the final assembly, a large.
Do you understand that
large
yesterday
portion.
when Donald Trump was doing his interview with Bloomberg, he made fun of that. Donald Trump shit on companies like Tesla when he said, we do the final assembly here, we could have children do that. It's just throwing together Legos. Donald Trump doesn't like final assembly. Donald Trump wants not just the Tesla final assembly here, but all the batteries, all of the steel, every single component of that made in America. Again, your plan sounds great. That sounds like an ordinary, like decent economic plan. Donald Trump's plan is autarky. It's ridiculous.
I'm glad you like my plan. Thanks.
Okay, if you run for president, I'll support it.
I appreciate it.
Stephen?
Hey. Yep.
He was actually pretty solid.
So if Trump is going to be bad for...
He was pretty solid. I'll give him... I said that was a pretty solid performance. He had some solid performances. He does the Michael Knowles stuff. He watches the Daily Wire, obviously. But he's not a dumb individual by any means.
For inflation, why is it that when he left office in 2021, inflation was at like almost an all-time low, practically non-existent at 1.4%. As soon as he left, that's when inflation started rising with the Biden-Harris administration. If he's going to be bad at inflation, why was the economy so good his whole 4 years? If you look at all the polls from any news site, even CNN, which is more left-leaning, you'll see that people in general say that they trust Trump more with the economy.
What did Donald Trump do that made the economy so good in those 4 years?
The question should be, what did he not do? He didn't do anything.
Exactly, I agree. He didn't do anything.
He didn't do anything bad. He stayed good the entire 4 times.
Because the economy had been growing ever since Obama brought us out of the end of the 2007 collapse. Again, another Democrat president comes in, whether it's 2008 with Obama inheriting the housing crisis, or whether it's 2020 with Biden coming in and having to deal with COVID. Yeah, he had to come in and spend like crazy.
You can't blame everything on COVID, okay?
You can blame a lot on COVID. It was a really big deal, and we are doing better than all the other countries right now. I agree. Under Biden, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, and when Trump left office, he was also in the middle of COVID too, and inflation was still at 1.4%. Why has it tripled? Why is it
Donald Trump spent like the first year
Biden?
of or the first like month of COVID pretending it didn't exist. I don't know if he was like the leader to point to about that.
Okay, well,
I just don't know what's one policy that Donald Trump has given if he comes back to office is going to help inflation. Just one.
He's going to be doing tariffs, and he's
How that makes things more expensive.
He's also going to be mining.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seats.
Yep.
Man, it's tough to just sit here and talk with so many different people all the time.
Nice to meet you.
Okay,
you gotta be locked in.
In the 1980s, reported that $1 to $3 billion was spent on illegal immigrants who were coming in and basically feeding off of public services. So what I don't really find appealing is that you get a lot of conversation from the right and the left asking basically everyone except Latinos what they think about this issue, okay? Because it affects us. It affects the fact that we're here, we've crossed legally, and then we're getting our image basically affected by the fact that we have criminals killing Americans, by the way. Let me just give you a few names who have died, basically.
So this is gonna have nothing to do with anything that he's talking about. Okay, cool. And he's about to bring up anecdotal evidence of these terrible situations, which are terrible. But appealing to anecdotal situations and appealing to emotion, I think is pretty, it does not move me. I'm sorry. It just doesn't, because everybody has their own experience and you can't account for every individual that exists. Now, how that problem happens, of course, that should be point of conversation. But this is trying to emotionally load the audience. So I'm already giving him bad marks, and I don't think this is going to
at hands of illegal criminals. Lincoln Riley, which people know, Christopher Gadd, Travis Wolf, Alex
What is it?
Wise.
What is
Do
it?
you not care about these names?
No, I don't care about these names.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh,
I'm good.
well, that's.
If we're having a policy discussion, no. Do you
So
want me to
this
start naming
one-
off like every black person that gets killed by a
this
police
one-
officer or whatever?
so
If you want to
look
do the
at-
BLM tactics, I mean, we can do that, but like,
Look
no,
at
I don't
this
care.
one. A 12-year-old Travis Scott, a baby by 2
Sure,
years old.
all death, all murder.
You
is
have a son,
tragic,
right?
But what is the?
You have a son, right?
Has nothing to do
So
with
if your son was
conversation.
killed at the hands of an illegal immigrant who was a criminal, you would care about the southern
I would also
border.
care if he was killed by a 15. I would care if he died in a school
so
shooting.
wouldn't- so
What do you
wouldn't-
mean? What's the point?
Wouldn't you be
Do you think
there
that my son has a higher chance of being
advocating
killed
for
by-
the
do you think-
southern
do you
border to
think
be
that my son-
closed? You would
Do you think that my son
You
has a higher
would
chance of
be.
being killed in a
You
school
would be.
shooting or
It
by an illegal
debunks
immigrant?
you. It
What do you think?
debunks you. So you don't want to answer the
School shooting or
question.
illegal immigrant?
If your son was killed as a victim at the hands of an illegal criminal, by the way, there is a watch list of many people, terrorist groups and organizations that have been coming into our country, and it is very well known. Look, let me tell you. Okay?
Okay, I'm sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Oh, okay.
That was stupid. Oh my god.
So, as everybody's already discussed, tariffs are actually beneficial to American manufacturing. Ivanka Trump brought Louis Vuitton manufacturing back to America, something that was considered unheard of.
Why do you think every single economist hates tariffs?
Why do you hate American manufacturing?
Because I hate America. I don't know. What kind of a question?
No, because manufacturing jobs actually bring people out of poverty. So what is your problem with manufacturing in America?
My problem is in America, because we're such an educated country and because we're such an advanced country, we can do more with our manufacturing than making the most bare bones things that other countries might be better suited towards creating.
So
the
you
reason why
prefer-
Elon
so you
Musk
prefer-
came to America
So
to
you
do
prefer
Tesla
other
and
people doing
SpaceX
our manufacturing?
to do baser manufacturing, we can do more. We can do more
You're saying
complicated.
that the lowest rung of our population isn't important enough to actually provide them a job, even if it is a manufacturing job.
They have
You're
jobs.
What is the jobs? The ones that are being
I
taken
don't
by
know.
the
We have
the
less than
ones being-
5%
the ones-
unemployment. What are they
the
doing
ones
for
being
work? What do you
taken by
mean?
the immigrants?
I thought the immigrants were coming here not working.
Yo soy la población que más afecta a estos policías. De veras. Tienes que aprender español, mijo.
Not very well. Something about the policies affecting you. I don't know what.
Yeah. My community is the one who's going to be affected by the policies that are
What are you talking about? What policies?
Kamala Harris's policies and Trump's policies. We benefited. My community benefited.
What? From what policy? What are you
Because when
talking
you
about?
bring in an unskilled labor population, they're going to compete with Americans who are also low-skilled workers.
Do you think that we have an employment?
You don't think that I can't pick? You don't think I can teach Maria or Juanita to pick up a pair of scissors and groom a dog's hair? Because I've done that before. And you know what? I can replace anybody. That's called being a low-skilled worker. And anybody crossing the border can do that. You don't need a degree. You don't need a diploma to do these jobs.
No, but we do have
these
degrees.
jobs,
We are
these
not.
jobs,
America
these
does not have the
manufacturing
most
jobs,
productive
these
labor force in the
low-skilled
world
jobs
because we do
are
base
important.
manufacturing
You
jobs.
don't think these
It's
low-skilled
so
jobs are important. You don't think these low-skilled jobs are
we
important.
do
That's very
more- we
sad.
do more
That's
in the
very
United
sad that
States.
you don't care.
He's just rambling. This is stupid. This is a terrible performing. He acts like an emotional child. Destiny, don't get triggered. Lock in, boy. You gotta lock in. You're getting triggered. You're falling off the topic. You gotta lock in, my boy. I know it's annoying, but sometimes you just gotta lock in. You gotta deal with people like
More
this.
in the United States than just base manufacturing. We are the world's most sophisticated
Why
and
shouldn't
educated
we do-
economy.
why shouldn't
Because
we do
don't-
more
because
base
we don't have-
manufacturing?
We don't have 50 hours in the day. You can do more than that. Why wouldn't we let other
The
countries do it?
reason
if
that
we can do it? It
manufacturers
works.
choose to go out of the country is because America has to pay for things like labor laws, employment, insurance, all these other facets. That's why these big corporations will go to places like China. I have a company called BYD in my backyard that brings in Chinese immigrants and pays them Chinese wages in America. And my representative, Mike Garcia, got that.
So he wants to just kick out all immigrants. Fuck all immigrants. Why are immigrants coming to my country? My country. America.
That organization defunded because federal funding, my taxes
You think it would be better
were
if we
going
pay? So we
to
need
a
to pay-
Chinese
so we need to
company
pay-
in my
so we
backyard.
need to pay-
I would rather
yeah.
pay American workers
$2 an hour to make products?
I'd
Maybe
rather
your
make
company shouldn't exist in America. Maybe you should go to China
$15
and make your company.
$20.
Go to China and make the company.
You
That
are
would be better. You should do that.
arguing to
Yes,
move
I'm
American
arguing that American
manufacturing out
workers
of
can
America.
earn more money than
You
they,
are very
no,
sad.
I'm saying
You don't love America.
Elon
You are
Musk.
proving that you
Elon
don't love
Musk.
America because you don't want Americans to benefit. You don't want American manufacturing to lift people out of poverty. That is sad.
Republicans are bots. To be honest, Democrats are bots. They do the same shit.
what's
I'm
up?
not gonna lie.
So
The
we
cheering
already talked about
over
inflation,
emotional
1.9 under Trump.
outbursts.
I think you guys like to leave
that's
out
pathetic
deficit
and
spending, which was
cringe.
8.2 trillion under Biden and 6.7 under Trump.
Why was it so much higher under Biden?
You could say during COVID, but you could also bring in the the total revenue during Biden and Trump was close to the same, and he was spending almost double the amount each year. And you could also
Why
talk
was-
about
why
the
was-
Federal
why was Trump
Reserve
running such
printing
huge deficits?
printing
You're not gonna answer that
16
question, are
trillion.
you?
Can you repeat the question? I
Why
was
did
talking
Donald
and you
Trump?
interrupted
Why
me,
did yeah? Because you want to get scaled to the next point. Why did Donald Trump engage in massive deficit spending?
Why did Donald Trump engage in massive deficit spending? I don't know the answer. Can you answer it?
Yeah, because he likes to spend because it makes the economy look better.
Okay, so the same thing that Biden and Harris does.
Yeah, but they have
at
a
an
reason because
increasing
they're
rate,
because they're
correct?
coming in under
At an increasing
at an
rate,
increasing
correct?
rate to stave off recession.
Okay,
Yes,
then what
there's
about
a
the Federal
difference.
Reserve printing $16 trillion in 2 years?
What about the Federal
From
Reserve?
2021
the Federal
to 2023.
Reserve's monetary
No,
policy
because
is
my
separate from
point
the
is you like to
administration,
blame
so-
inflation only on COVID, but you don't want to take in deficit spending. You don't want to take in the Federal Reserve printing money. You also don't
If
want
you
to
want
take
to
in.
talk about the Federal Reserve rates were not only low under Trump, he pressured them to be low. He literally bragged about it in his interview, and he said that when he comes back in, one of his goals is to keep the federal interest rates low. He talked about bringing Jerome Powell into his office and threatening him to keep the rates low. So if you don't like deficit spending, if you don't like the Federal Reserve's monetary policy, if you don't like free money, then it feels like Donald Trump is literally the worst case for you.
Well, wouldn't you say the deficit spending is causing inflation? So doesn't that take more money away from Americans by your logic?
I don't know if it takes more money away from America, but deficit spending can
So
lead
on,
to...
higher inflation doesn't take money away from Americans?
It can. It's more complicated than that, but yeah, it can. But I'm saying that deficit spending in and of itself is generally inflationary, but there are reasons why you might want to deficit spend. For instance, it's better to have some inflation than it is to have a recession or a full depression, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. Now, you bring up tariffs. Now, why did we extend them under Biden, and then why do we double the tariffs from Canada as well if tariffs are so bad? So when Biden does it, it's okay, but when Trump installs them, they're horrible.
So the issue is, if you're talking about specific tariffs as retaliation, because somebody else might be tariffing something that they shouldn't, if they're engaging in that, then that type of thing, as was discussed earlier, I think is okay. The reason why a lot of them came in under Trump and they weren't rescinded under Biden is because once somebody's put a tariff in place and then a counter tariff comes up, you have to engage in a negotiation to bring them down. You can't take yours down unilaterally because you just get screwed.
So do you think all economists agree that 10% tariff is bad?
Yes.
You should look at the study 2019 by Jenny Tang, Brent Newman.
I would never look at a single study on that, yeah.
Increase in inflation.
That's time. Please return to your seat.
Thank you.
My next claim is Donald Trump is a fascist.
Oh, he didn't go the foreign wars route. I'm so tired of people watching people
Destiny,
Google
can you
after
define
everything that I said.
fascism?
It's kind of
I would say the two big points for fascism would be ultranationalism and authoritarianism.
Okay, what is authoritarianism?
I would say that authoritarianism
that
is trying
Andrew
to
Wilson in
centralize as much
disguise?
power in like a structural sense into one part of the government, and then in a broader sense, it usually means undermining a bunch of liberal values that you would finally say in the
So then how is it that every part of the government which accrues more and more power to itself every single year aren't a bunch of fascists?
Because the government gaining power doesn't necessarily make it fascist. You could say there might be governmental overreach,
I'm
but
still
it's
not even sure. What is fascist here, Destiny? What is fascist?
I said-
So Giovanni Gentili, we have definitions of what fascism is. We have third partyists who are out there right now who are fascist. They claim Trump is a populist. Can you tell me why they're wrong and why you're right that he's a
well, I
fascist?
would have to know their exact reasons for why they reject Trump being a fascist, but I would say that Trump is
These
a
are-
fascist
they're
because
your-
he's an
hang on,
ultranationalist
these are
and
your
authoritarian.
claims. These are your claims,
I'm not
right?
claiming anything that those people
You
said. I've
claim
given you my
that
definition for
you claim
fascist.
he's a
I gave the two parts. I can
Okay,
explain them more if
so
you
let's
want.
start with ultra-authoritarian.
Why I said ultranationalist and authoritarian.
What is ultranationalism?
So I think ultra-nationalism is when you engage in a hardcore protectionist ideology that usually involves shutting yourself out from the rest of the world. That could be in forms of international affairs like military conflicts, and it could be in the forms of ultra-protectionist in terms of trade and shutting down things like immigration in order to protect your own native peoples. Oftentimes there's a heavily racialized element, but it might not have to be.
Okay, well, Donald Trump, you're not saying has a heavy racialized element, are you?
I'm ambivalent. I don't really care on that much. I think that he
Okay.
qualifies or satisfies the term without that. But
Okay, so let's dive into this real quick. If you have a president who doesn't want to get involved in foreign affairs as far as wars go and has some type of policies which benefit the United States over all other nations, is he a fascist?
No.
Well, I'm still confused as to what makes Trump a fascist.
That's because I had two parts of that, and you missed the authoritarian one.
Yeah,
What you
okay.
described there before was just like protection.
But when you said authoritarian, what is he doing, which is accumulating all power to himself?
So he's trying to centralize power in the executive branch of the government, and specifically in the presidential part of the government, of the executive branch.
How?
How Donald Trump thinks that he should be able to unilaterally make decisions up and down all of the different departments and offices that exist in the executive branch.
Presidents use executive orders all the time.
That's not what an executive order is.
Presidents unilaterally make decisions all the time.
No, they don't?
Yes, they do.
No,
they
they
do. They use executive orders all the time.
An executive order doesn't mean that you are taking power away from the departments and offices that have been created.
Right. So where's the fascism here?
Would you like me to give you specific
Yes,
examples?
give me the specific example.
Sure. So when Donald Trump didn't like the answer that he was getting from his attorney general because he was trying to direct the Department of Justice to do investigations or to fabricate claims, that would be an example of trying to centralize power just to the president because he's undermining his own department that's been created for him that's supposed to have some level of independence that's tasked with doing investigations.
Let me ask you a question. Is the president of the United States commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States?
I believe so.
You believe so?
Unless something's changed.
Do they have
yeah.
do they have control of the entire?
So he's addressed everything that he said, and then he just moves on to another point, completely ignoring what he said. This is one of the most cringe ways to have a conversation. I hate this version of having a conversation because you're trying to throw so many points out there to eventually get them in a gotcha. This is so cringe.
Entire military apparatus, essentially, as the commander-in-chief.
Commander-in-chief, yes.
Yeah. Is that fascist?
No.
So they have unilateral, basically almost unilateral control by your own metrics of the most mighty military on planet Earth. That's not accumulating enough power, centralized control to one person. It's the fact that he tried to slay some fucking electors. Really?
So the president being the commander-in-chief is specifically laid out in the Constitution. That's an authority granted to him. I don't know what's fascist about that.
Well, because you
I mean,
said it's ultra power. It's this idea of
I
having,
didn't say
of
anything
having
about
central
the
power.
military.
If you have the central
I
power,
didn't ever bring that up for him. But
if you have the central power
Yeah.
of the most mighty military on planet Earth and the codes to the largest nuclear armament on,
He's trying to compare. This is such a disingenuous. Nobody thinks that. Nobody. Oh my god, bro. it's such a disingenuous
planet
way to
Earth.
have a conversation.
You already have all of the central power, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
How do the nuclear codes help you
Yeah.
direct your Department of Justice?
Okay, I'm sorry. Is he the commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces?
Are you just arguing that he's the commander? I already agree with you. I don't know why you keep
but
arguing.
I'm arguing to you.
I'm asking you, how does the commander-in-chief use the military
to ask
to make...
me. It's your
Well, I
claim.
can ask whatever
asking
you
you
want,
about
yeah.
your claim,
So
and your claim is
how does that make
he's
him
a
control the
fascist.
DOJ? How does the military help him control the DOJ?
Back up. That is the most powerful position I can think of for you to be in, period. How could
That's
you
a powerful
accumulate-
position.
What
That's a
more,
powerful...
What more accumulation of power would you want for a fascist dictator?
Gotcha. Okay, so that's powerful in that you control the military. That's it. That's just control of the military. For the FBI coming to your house to arrest you, for the DOJ filing charges
send the
against
military
you,
to
for
do
the
it.
EPA, no, the president doesn't do that.
He
I don't know.
could.
No, I
He's
don't believe that he can. I don't believe you can. I don't think that you can deploy the military to arbitrarily arrest U.S. citizens.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your
That's
seat.
so stupid. Oh my god. That was so brain dead.
Okay, you're not voting for Trump.
No.
I am. I think we can have a respectful policy disagreement without labeling one side or the other fascist or communist or Marxist. So let's have a policy disagreement here. You think Donald Trump is a fascist because of ultranationalist tendencies and authoritarianism, correct?
Yeah.
So let me just draft this vision and see if it makes sense. The authoritarianism is ruling by presidential decree, prosecuting political opponents, bringing power into the government, and abandoning our allies abroad. That sounds a lot like the Biden-Harris administration.
So
look at
I would say that, well, no, wait, we'll go point by point.
Okay,
so first of all, when we talk about abandoning allies abroad, are we referring to, so we haven't cut funding from Israel. Are we referring to when Donald Trump abandoned the Turkish people, or abandoned the Kurdish people to Turkish attacks in Syria? Are we talking about when the Trump administration cut out the Afghanistan government in the Doha Accords when they were talking with the Taliban, when Donald Trump surrendered to the Taliban? Or are we talking about when Biden tried to support Ukraine with the full force of not only the United States economy and our moral support, but also by getting Europe on board to help Ukraine? The idea that the Biden and Harris administration have abandoned our foreign partners is nonsense to me. And also, it's not just about making the government more powerful. I know that Andrew tried to run with that. It's about centralizing power within the government.
Right, and wiping off student loan debts at the expense of working class Americans. I understand that, but let's
So hold on. Wiping out student loan government. The citation for that was was a bill that was passed from Congress. Biden tried to do that because of during it was like extraordinary times you could do something, and he tried to stretch it to that. But the Supreme Court said no, and then he didn't do it.
Okay, the Supreme Court had to intervene, right?
Well, the Supreme Court made a ruling on it because it was challenged. That's the government like working as
and he stopped trying to do that right afterward, right? He said, I'm not going to do this anymore, or did he say, I'm going to keep delivering on this promise?
I think he explored other legal avenues to do it.
Okay, well, legal remains to be seen, but let's talk about.
Well, he hasn't done anything illegal, right?
Okay, let's talk about.
Well, he hasn't done anything illegal, right?
We're talking about.
Okay, there's no answer to that. Okay.
Let's talk about October 7th. October 7th would not have happened if President Trump was in office. Ukraine would not have been invaded by Russia if President Trump was in office. You can call him crazy, you can call him anything.
Now
he was
we're
an
talking about
effective
foreign
deterrent
wars.
because he understood, Stephen, a little thing we like to call peace through strength. Here's the truth.
The truth is October 7th probably happened likely because of Trump and his policies.
Well, why is it? Holy moly, why is that?
Why is that?
Yes, please.
The reason why is because Donald Trump engaged in more reckless behavior with Israel that only encouraged Israel's expansionism without doing anything to actually address the Palestinian problem. For instance, Donald Trump agreed to moving and recognizing the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem that instigated everybody in the region, including the Palestinians, which is why you saw the whole border riots, the Great March of Return that erupted over the year protesting that. And then Donald Trump, along with Kushner, tried to help Israelis negotiate multilateral peace agreements or more bilateral peace agreements through the Abraham Accords, again, while cutting out the Palestinians. All of this just continued to drive the Palestinian plight further and further because they saw more and more allies being isolated from them. They saw no recognition from the United States. And then obviously, terrorist attacks is all you can do from that point, apparently. So
Trump,
like, that's so obviously Andrew Wilson. It sounds like Andrew Wilson. It talks like Andrew Wilson. I don't know why he's in disguise. What is he trying to do? Like a video? It's just weird.
Moved an embassy, got Muslim majority countries for the first time ever to recognize the rightful existence of the Jewish state of Israel, and that justifies the heinous attack we saw on October 7th, where we killed over 1,000. Well, you said that Trump was responsible for October 7th.
Donald Trump and his foreign policy posturing is what moved us in that direction.
President Biden was in office for 3 years before October 7th happened. How possibly could that be Trump's fault?
What did Biden do to contribute to the conditions that made October 7th happen?
Very clear, very clear. Iran was only exporting 150,000 barrels of oil a day under Trump. Now they're exporting 1.6 million. They're making hundreds of billions of dollars a year more. That emboldens them to give their proxies weapons, money, and the vigor to attack the Jewish state. And that is unacceptable in the international community. Let me tell you something about President Trump.
Let me tell you something about President Trump. The only reason that Hamas attacked Israel, you think the only reason they were able to do it is because of increased Iranian funding?
Who funds Hamas?
In part, it's Iran, but Hamas gets funding from all sorts of different adventures.
Who funds Iran?
They get money from Qatar, right?
Who funds? Okay. Who funds Hamas? Of course they do.
Right? Probably
Who gives more money? No.
It might have been Qatar, I think, actually.
Well, they give them a Ritz-Carlton hotel room, but listen.
No, they were transferring a whole lot of money to the Gaza Strip. That was one of the big things, one of the big scandals that Netanyahu was involved in, was allowing that money to pass through to the Gaza Strip.
Stephen, let's just do some quick logical reasoning here. If Iran gets more money, that's good for Hamas, right? You agree on that? Come on.
Broadly speaking.
Iran gets more money.
Broadly speaking, yeah, come on, just concede one thing, Stephen, come on.
Broadly speaking, probably, yeah.
Okay, all right.
There's
Okay.
more at play here
That's
that I'm
fine.
not even sure if you're aware of. So the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, has some amount of money that's guaranteed to it, regardless of whether they're exporting or importing as a
And you know
country.
what?
But
And you know
in
what?
general, I agree with you, sure, yeah.
And you know what? I am glad that President Trump ordered the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, because that man is responsible for death and destruction. The targets he made on the Jewish state were completely unacceptable. Stephen,
I don't even think the targets he made on American citizens in Iraq was unacceptable. I have no love lost for Soleimani. I'm glad the dude's dead. I'm not going to sit here and defend it, but Donald Trump doesn't do anything good foreign policy-wise for Israel. He doesn't have a vision for the region. That's why he had to basically leave all of it to his son-in-law Kushner.
But why was Crimea annexed under Obama? Why was Ukraine invaded under Biden? Why did nothing happen under Trump for 4 years? It was a complete stalemate, complete
Wait.
stability.
Crimea was still occupied, right?
Okay, but it was annexed under who?
Hold on. It was still occupied, right?
Of course, but
Okay.
let's be
Wait.
realists.
There was
Let's
a
be
civil
realists,
there was a
Stephen.
civil war that was raging in the Donbass the entire
Did
time,
it
right?
accelerate? Did it accelerate? Was there new land
Yes, there was
claims?
more, not new land claims, but the civil war in the
Kyiv being
Donbass.
bombed? Was
No,
Kyiv being
but the
bombed?
civil war in the Donbass was still going on. What did Donald Trump do about
The
that?
world is safer under
Nothing.
President Trump.
It
The world was
absolutely- it
safer
absolutely
under
is not.
President Trump. The world knows that, Stephen, and the world's going to show that on November 5th.
Okay.
So would you attribute fascism to maybe a dictator?
I mean, a dictator can be fascistic, sure.
Okay. So on Biden's first day in office, he signed 17 executive orders. Trump signed one. Most of the executive orders that Biden signed were to halt like the border and other Trump immigration policies.
I don't think executive orders have anything to do with fascism.
Would you attribute those to being a dictator?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay. Well, then what other claim do you have that he is a fascist compared to...
I think that Donald Trump reaching into and trying to direct his apartments to do probably illegal things.
Well, Biden did that too with Facebook. He came out and said, Zuckerberg came out and said that Biden and Harris came to him to pretty much limit what Trump...
I don't think that was the claim. I think that what Zuckerberg said was that he felt pressured by some of the intelligence agencies to censor stories that they had censored, and he felt like he regretted that or he didn't want to do that.
Like
But I don't think anything...
laptop, for example?
Well, that wasn't done because of any direct pressure from any of the intelligence agencies. We saw that in the Twitter files. There was never a claim.
Well, then why would Zuckerberg come out and say, I'm not going to...
Well, I'm talking about the Twitter files. Zuckerberg had his reasons that he listed in his letter to
Right.
Jordan, but none of this was illegal.
Well, I'm not saying it's illegal, but I'm saying, would you not say that's kind of dictatorial, kind of fascist?
No, I don't think so. It's all like out in the open.
Okay,
Like at
for
the end of the
example,
year, like Twitter and Facebook are
Let's
publishing
say
like how
Trump,
much they're
let's
charging
say the
government
roles are reversed and then Trump did that to Biden. Would you then call him a fascist for doing that?
For doing what?
For pressuring, as you said, Zuckerberg or Meta to limit...
If Donald Trump's intelligence agencies has felt like there was like information that was being illegally offered into the United States from foreign enemies or whatever, and that
well, it wasn't
department was
illegal.
like...
The laptop was proven.
No, but that was the laptop doesn't prove anything, but that was the fear, and that was the like fear that they had shared with those companies, but they didn't force them directly to take any action. Again, we can read the Twitter files, we can go through the emails.
I'm not talking about Twitter, I'm talking about Facebook. I'm talking about Meta.
For Facebook, Zuckerberg also didn't allege any illegal action. He just said there was pressure from some of the agencies because to like censor what they perceived to be as threats or misinformation or whatever. I think some of it had to do like COVID misinformation and shit as well. I think.
Okay.
Which we can argue like should they have the role to do that or not? I just don't know if that's necessarily fascistic, like Donald Trump trying to direct his DOJ to like go after certain people or trying to direct his DOJ to like.
Biden's done that with all the...
There's zero evidence for any of that, and probably it's almost certainly not true if you look at how Merrick Garland has gone after, for instance, his son.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
I'm Tia. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I wanted to hone in on the part about nationalism. Can you explain that again in a little bit more detail?
Sure. So I would say more ultranationalism than just nationalism, but it's this idea that, you know, basically screw the rest of the world. We're going to hardcore cut immigration. We're going to hardcore cut our trade. We're going to hardcore cut our association with anybody else. And we're just going to be like our own little, basically, island nation. I think it's a very bad direction to go in.
And who's taking us in that direction?
I think that's what Donald Trump wants to do.
Wants to do. He was in office for 4 years. Did he do that?
Well, Donald Trump began some tariff processes. He tried to
So
do
he
a full
didn't do
Muslim
that for
ban.
4 years,
He tried.
but he's
Well,
gonna
he
do
took
that
steps
now,
towards
right?
that. He took steps
So
towards
I'm
that, right?
curious,
You acknowledge that he did try.
you're
He
an
banned 7
American?
Muslim majority countries, right?
You're a U.S.
He did do that.
citizen?
He did
You're
do tariffs.
born
You
here?
acknowledge that, right?
Do you
And
like
he did
being an
undermine
American?
NATO. He
Are you
threatened
glad
that,
to be
yes.
able to live here?
I'm glad to be able to live here. Am I glad to be an American? I am, but I don't know what that means to you. But to me, I am
Which is
glad to be an
interesting
American,
because something that I've started to realize in the last few years is people who love America, who love living here, have been titled nationalists, and it's like a threat all of a sudden.
People that label themselves MAGA that say they love America have nothing to do with American values and nothing in common with the core values of this country. So they're the
Please
least
explain.
American people.
Please explain.
Sure, the desire to elect somebody who says the most obviously fascist things in the world, like the media is the enemy of the people, a guy who says he wants to terminate the Constitution, a guy who says he'd be a dictator on
Who's
day one.
terminating the
Donald Trump said that he
Constitution?
believes he could terminate the Constitution because of
It's
voter
so
fraud.
crazy because I've been hearing a lot lately from your side that the Constitution isn't necessary.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which lawmaker or presidential candidate said that?
Oh, she just goes on social media. She just listens to the woke cringe lefties. She has nothing of substance to say. She just wants gotchas because woke lefties are cringe, but doesn't take into accountability the things that Donald Trump actually has said. Gotcha.
Your side.
Which is that the name first and last? Your side?
Yeah.
Like Miss Side, or is she a
Yeah,
congressman, or is
it's
she
your
a
side.
senator, or I don't know which leader has said that, so I can't speak to that. I don't know who you
So
follow on Twitter,
anyways,
I can't
as
speak
an
to that.
American-
But anyway, you acknowledge Donald Trump said that in times of like great peril, you can suspend the Constitution, and that he would do that for voter fraud.
For voter fraud?
He said that, yes. On Truth Social, he said that.
I'm sure there's a longer quote that I can look up later. I would love to do that, but I'm sure you're using it out of context.
Okay, you'll look it up later and you won't ever talk about it again because it's an important quote. You acknowledge
because
Donald
you
Trump
know
said
me
that
so well.
because you're on that side, I know.
Okay.
You agree that Donald Trump said that he would be a dictator on day one?
He did not say he would be a dictator on day one.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So as an American, I believe that it's a
So she
privilege
just
and a
doesn't know
blessing to live
anything.
here. And under the Biden and Harris administration, my life has gotten a lot.
Yeah, I don't care. Could care less. Let's move on. She doesn't know anything, huh?
Tax credit would help you a lot more than another tax cut for wealthy billionaires.
A couple $1,000s isn't going to change my life, especially with
Another $6,000 a year wouldn't help you at all with groceries?
with 2 children.
Yeah?
This much maybe, but if the
What
price
are your
of
children
groceries-
eating?
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return
Thank
to your
you.
seat.
Nice to meet you.
Also, to be fair, Maga sometimes is on the defensive because Destiny knows so much.
So, I would like to address, because earlier I feel like this was kind of dodged on a little bit. Earlier you directly said that Trump was authoritarian, then you said he was ultra-nationalist, and then you said he was authoritarian, then you said he was ultra-nationalist again. You kind of bounce back and forth. So which do you think
Well, I say both. He's both, right?
Both, right. But then when the topic of ultra-nationalism brought up, you said, well, he's more authoritarian. And then that again changed to, well, he's more ultra-nationalist. So which, in your mind, is he? Is he more authoritarian or is he more ultra-nationalist?
I don't know how to answer. It's like asking if a square is more blue or 5 feet.
Well, because
tall.
you
Like,
said
could
that.
be- they're two
Well,
totally
because you
separate
said that he
things.
was more nationalist, and then you said he was more authoritarian. You said both claims. So
Yeah,
I want to know which claim
so
is he more nationalist or is he more authoritarian?
I don't know how to say which one he's more of. He's both.
Because
They're
you
not
said that
competing
he was
things. I don't think
you
I ever
that
said
he
that. I don't
did.
remember. Do you remember what was
You
the response
swapped it
to?
over. I believe it was first gentleman who spoke.
Okay, he might have said something like you said that he was ultra-national. I said yes, and an
So
authoritarian.
another
Because
question is,
just being
why
one
is-
of these things isn't enough to be a
So
fascist.
why is nationalism at all even bad in the first place?
I don't know if nationalism is necessarily bad. I think that people kind of swap it out with patriotism sometimes. That's why there's the prefix ultranationalism. Ultranationalism is bad. It's because when you elevate your own country, just
what
like
did he do for ultranationalism?
when he talks about putting tariffs across the board for every single other country on the planet.
So helping our
It's not helping our
economy.
economy.
It's not.
It wouldn't be helping
so
us, and
He
it'd
was
be
not helping our
detriment to the
economy
entire
during his presidency when he was actually literally getting us to import rice to China. Rice to China is benefiting our economy. Is that not? Is replacing China as one of China's
Yeah,
biggest
this
farming
person doesn't know
with
anything.
ours, and as this gentleman also brought up with our manufacturing, how is bringing manufacturing over here, which is helpful.
We'll skip this. They don't know
My next
anything.
claim is the Make America Great Again movement would not exist without massive amounts of disinformation.
Oh, interesting.
Hello, Destiny.
Hi.
Fancy seeing you here again.
Yep.
Here to bully me some more?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
Let's get it going. Can you state some of the disinformation?
Trying to think over the past few weeks, we've seen absurd claims relating to hurricanes being manufactured by weather machines. We've seen outright lies about the National Guard and FEMA like blowing away supplies and trapping people in their homes and lying about Biden providing financial aid to states, even though Trump is the one that has threatened to withhold aid. We've seen lies about the Haitians eating dogs and cats and Springfield. I can go on.
Have you I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Have you left the United States?
Yeah.
Where have you been?
I've been through Israel and Palestine. I've gone across Europe. I've been to New Zealand. I've been to places in Asia. I don't know what.
Okay, so you're like me. You've been everywhere. So you've seen some of these claims. You've like literally seen them to be true, or that they're false, rather. So
I mean, I haven't seen how a hurricane is made. I
Okay.
haven't talked to every Haitian in Springfield. So.
all right. So what was the second point you brought up? About you said something about the camps and not looking that way. That was my point. Have you
The-
been to these camps and have you seen the conditions and things
The
that they're
FEMA camps?
Yeah.
Or? No.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Period. The end. So you're saying no, you haven't, but you're saying it's disinformation. So how do you know that it's disinformation? Which is why I brought up the point: have you left the country? Have you seen with your own eyes what's going on in these camps? And
Do you understand that?
These are stupid points. I'm moving on. I'm so. I
But
don't.
there's places
I don't
where
think
there's
there's
not.
enough. There's
every
reason
single
for
thing in the
me
world.
to
You
waste
did.
time.
Thanks for 20 minutes. We can do that if you want. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
That was just so
Please return
dumb.
to your seats.
You have to see it to know if something's not true. Like what?
I think that both sides thrive on misinformation. I think average people don't have enough time in their lives to decipher what's true and what's not.
I
That's
agree.
the case for most people who work 9 to 5, unfortunately.
Now, the
but I think that
levels
your side
is
also thrives
important.
off of misinformation. I think that you actually just did the meme a second ago. You said that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was just tax cuts for the rich, but in fact, people making $50,000 received a tax cut of 16 to 26%.
The majority of the money went to wealthy people.
Why is that? It's because wealthy people pay more taxes, Stephen.
Yeah.
So their share of tax burden is obviously going to be in volume more physical
Correct.
dollars. Yes.
But when it comes to the budget, all that
But
matters is
proportionally,
absolute. Yeah.
do you concede that proportionally middle class people receive more in tax breaks than rich people?
Proportionally to their income?
Yes.
Possibly.
Or their tax burden.
But the problem is the effect at the end of the day on the budget then is going to be the biggest outlay is going to be towards wealthy people, right? Our deficits are increasing because all the money that wealthy people are saving, right?
Okay, sure, fair enough. But I think like already what is it, 90% of taxes are paid by 50% of the country and 50% of taxes are paid by 1% of the country. I always hear this thing of like the billionaires, the rich people aren't paying their fair share, but it seems to me that they've been paying more than their fair share since America's inception, and the middle class actually has been paying not their fair share. And I'm not saying that we should increase taxes on the middle class, but what I'm saying is the billionaires are definitely paying their fair share.
They pay a lot for sure, but if you want to fund all the programs that we have, you have to tax people more.
Back to the misinfo thing.
Okay.
I mean, like,
I agree that both sides engage in misinformation. I just think that conservatives do it on a whole other level. Donald Trump will get up and lie as easily as he breathes. Like if you watch any of the interviews that he gives, it's lie after lie after lie after lie.
Same thing with Kamala Harris.
Not even close to the same level. There's a reason why they asked Tim Walz, did you lie? Like, were you 3 months off on when you went to China?
And then he filibustered for 5 minutes.
And then for Vance, it was, do you believe the results of the last election?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, these are totally different types. You agree? Yeah, these are totally different types of claims, right?
But like your side's
Walz is probably not
constantly
okay.
touting
Vance,
like saying inflation is lower now than it was under Trump. Pre-COVID inflation rate is 2.4%.
I think Destiny was, it's just, all right. I'll criticize Destiny. He didn't really let him talk. But to be fair, he came up there. If you're coming up there, you have to start off with a stronger opening statement. You start off by talking about the rich and how the rich don't need you try to make excuses for the rich and whatever. I don't need to go into depth. I don't care. I'm locked in terms of winning this Madden game, but I'm listening. Trust me.
Why did Biden say he ran for president?
I don't remember.
Do you remember the video he released at the beginning when he launched his campaign?
For the 2020 election or for the? I don't remember now.
He said it was because of Charlottesville, and he specifically cited that Donald Trump called the Nazis fine people. Do you believe that?
So yes, I don't know
that's
why.
false. No. I'm sorry.
Hold on, wait. I understand what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say. It's people like to go to the. So some people present this as Donald Trump saying that the Nazis were good people. He didn't. He said there were good people on both sides of that rally, but it was a rally that had Nazis. I don't know in what world you would ever say that. The full quote doesn't exculpate. It's not exculpatory at all. Therefore,
the full quote, he said, the Nazis and white supremacists are completely disavowed. So he disavowed them
after he was pushed several times to do so.
No, that's not true. He said it in the speech. He said it in the speech. He said it in the speech, and they took him out of context and said that he called them fine people. Right after he said the fine people line, he said, I disavow the Nazis. So that's a lie that the Biden campaign.
I disagree that it was a lie. His quote on its own of him saying there were fine people on both sides in a tiki tally on a tiki torch rally, that is insanity.
He said disavow.
That is insanity.
No,
it's really easy. This was like a question on a retard testing. Like, hey, listen, here's a rally with a bunch of guys. Sorry, my bad. Streamer language. My bad. Streamer language. There's a rally, and on one side you got a bunch of people with tiki torches. How would you describe the rally? And you go, well, there are fine people on both sides. It's the most easy bait in the world to say. You probably should just say that side is a bad side. Considering how much people claim that like you have to disavow all the BLM, all of this, all rise.
It was
Yeah, Destiny gets riled up way too easily. He needs to calm down sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Calm down. I know, Maga gets me heated too, so that's why I'm reassessing
That was
how
at the night before. That's relevant because he disavowed the Nazis.
You've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
What's up, Steven?
Hi, what's up?
So, tell me, misinformation, you mean like fake dossiers or like rhetoric that has a president get assassinated, which attempts to get assassinated? You mean like that kind of misinformation?
Oh, he's about to say
that
some
caused
dumb
3
stuff.
assassination attempts?
Do you know why those people tried those assassination attempts?
I don't know. You're your friends, right? Didn't you say like one of the Republicans that she got shot, right? You had no problem with that, right? So I mean, that's the level of disinformation.
Weren't 2 of them like registered Republicans?
So they say. I think weren't they watching your content?
Were they watching my content?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Who's they?
They.
The Jews or?
I don't know about that.
Okay,
Isn't that the same misinformation? The dossiers, the rhetoric that he's a bad, he's to ruin the country. Oh, you know, like the one that Hillary Clinton bought, right? You know,
the one that was published by
the
BuzzFeed Media.
The fake one. You know,
I don't know.
The one that
fake,
whole FBI investigation that wasted a whole bunch of Americans' money, right?
Well, no, I don't think I would say. I think that the Mueller investigation turned out more credible indictments and information than the Hillary Clinton email investigation and the whole Benghazi waste of time.
Yeah,
and
but it was all
that
stuff that came from the Democrat Party, all that fake news, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know if you call it fake news. It was a dossier that they paid for to be researched by another person. They said that there was low confidence in a lot of it. Just like, for instance, do you acknowledge it also about Hunter Biden and his illegal dealings with Burisma and Joe Biden, like profiting off that? That's all fake news too?
No, I just know he does a lot of cocaine.
Okay.
Do you do cocaine with him?
No, I don't.
You coon with him?
Not recently, no.
Because you are the Coomer Gremlin, right?
Am I the Coomer Gremlin?
Well, we know you are.
Yeah? Like Donald Trump is? When he was like a prostitute like 4 years or 4 months after his wife had a child at home when he was cheating with Stormy Daniels?
You mean like how you take your wife to go get banged out by a bunch of dudes?
Am I running for president right now? Are you going to vote for me? Or
no, I'm going to vote for you.
So do you remember when Donald Trump was f***ing Stormy Daniels?
No, but do you remember when you were sucking
after,
your dick on
4 months after she had a child? You remember that?
Remember that?
You notice that?
Remember that?
I like that the standard that you set for me is the same as you set for your president. I'm not running for president. You understand that,
right?
You're not my standard for president. Okay, well then why are you comparing Trump to me?
Because I'm just...
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
That was cringe. And people clapped. That was cringe. Oh my god. Get a grip.
Okay, so everybody seems to be bringing up neo-Nazis and
Oh, is she about to bring up questions again? And be condescending and act like she's smart? Okay, there we go.
nationalism that seems to be coming up, and I want to know why under Obama, Joe Biden was the vice president under Obama, and our United States government, this is a fact, organized a coup against the government of Ukraine. And Ukraine is known as one of the #1 countries where where neo-Nazis are going to train. You have the Azov battalion, you have the right sector.
So one, the Azov battalion, I think it has most had like 600 or 700 people that might have been identified as neo-Nazis. Maybe, number one. Number two, the United States did not engage in any type of coup or anything.
There is a coup. It's
No, there
reported.
wasn't.
Yeah,
No, it's
yeah,
not.
Victoria Nuland.
Yeah, I understand.
Victoria
I'm aware of the
Nuland.
Nuland leak. All she said was that
aware
we
of the
would
Nuland leak with
the
Jeffrey
leaked phone
Pyatt.
call
Then
where
why
all
did
they say,
why did they
where
remove
say
Jeffrey Pyatt from the embassy?
The leak call
Why
said
did they
that they
remove
would
Jeffrey
defer
Pyatt from the
one
embassy?
leader of another.
Why did
There's
they kick him out of
absolutely no
Ukraine?
evidence
All of
that
this is on
Euromaidan
video.
was
This is on
concocted.
video.
You're delusional. You're a
Maidan?
crazy person.
I'm a
You're
crazy person
person.
because of Maidan?
You're a
Okay,
crazy person.
okay,
Yes.
привет, как дела? No, yet.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You don't understand what happened, and you're making up claims that aren't true. These are actual recordings from Victoria.
No, we've all heard them
Jeffrey
15
Pyatt.
million times because it's the only things that you guys can propagate to try to claim that the United States engaged in a coup
You
over
guys
there.
haven't brought this up at all. I'm bringing it up right now.
Okay,
It was brought up
the
all the
Azov.
time. Yeah.
You've been voted out by the
Yeah,
majority.
she's a crazy person. Absolutely. Absolutely a crazy person.
Hi.
So I just want to address the fact, recently we had a debate, and so there wasn't any fact checks on Kamala Harris really anytime, especially when she claimed that Democrats don't support third trimester abortion and that it never happens. That recently happened not too long ago, Washington, D.C. with Cesar Santangelo. There were
In the presidential debate, Vice President Harris said it's not true that Democrats would allow third trimester abortions. However, the Democrat platform does not place any limits on abortion, and the party's previously introduced bill to restore Roe v. Wade went much further than that. Fair enough. If she is advocating for third trimesters, because I don't believe anything Maga says, because you guys are pathological liars. If that does exist, for me, I will criticize it. I think that's stupid. So simple as that.
5
simple
third
as
trimester
that.
babies who were aborted.
Simple
We've
as
seen this
that.
with Kermit Gosnell as well.
Can I ask, what were those 5 babies aborted for?
Why does that matter? They were still killed third trimester, fully developed,
Well,
their
the question
spines
is
completely snapped.
Was the abortion a part of like a medical procedure for the life of the mother?
No.
So is it totally
It was an
elective?
elective,
Okay,
yes.
I'll look it up afterwards. My understanding is 1, this is incredibly rare. 2, I don't even know if the vast majority of Democrats would support this. 3, I don't know if the vast majority of like pro-choice people would support this.
But the thing is,
I
over
haven't- I would have to
90% of Democrats actually don't. They are okay with there not being any limits on abortion. If
I
we
think
look at
that-
the
I don't
states,
think
if we
that's
look at the
true.
states, there's 6 states, including Washington D.C., which is a district that has no restrictions on abortion. That means that all of those states are Democrat states. So yes, that side is perpetuating and at least setting a very dangerous precedent that this can happen in those
I
states.
think the reason why they advocate for no laws in those states, and I would have looked at this better with craft a law for it, but the problem is that if you make it illegal, then if a medical issue does come up, there's a potential roadblock or a hurdle there where a person might die waiting to get some type of like legal
But someone
approval for
always
something.
dies in an abortion. Someone always dies. A human being always dies.
With all
when
due
we don't
respect,
have
this is an insane position, and
No,
I'm
it's
not
not.
going
How
to
is
take the
it an
I'm not going to
insane
take the position that the life of the fetus is going to be prioritized over the life of the mother because you want to make an abortion illegal there in that case. I don't think you
So
have the
it's
right to make that
okay to
decision.
kill a human
I think
being
that
just
it's
for
better.
any
I think
sort
that
of
the mother and I
reason.
think that the family should be making that decision.
So-
I don't think that the government should be stepping in and saying.
I don't think that the government should allow people to kill people for no reason.
But
That's
you're
what
saying that you would turn the woman away from medical treatment because she can't engage in an abortion.
No,
at that
that's
point in
not
time.
what I'm saying. That's not the claim that I'm making. What I'm saying is,
Why are
is
we
that
talking about
that
abortion?
side is saying that no one supports it, that no laws are giving precedent for third trimester abortions when that's happening. And even if it is a small number, say it's 1% of all abortions, that's still over 15,000 abortions. That's 3 times the amount of kids who die in school shootings, which is a tragedy, and that's an issue we all need to fix. But that's still a significant amount of people that are dying from abortion, and no Democrat is acknowledging that. And I think it should be at least acknowledged.
Okay, I mean, if Republicans want to put together any type of like pro-choice legislation that they feel like Democrats would support, I mean, then they can have that conversation. But obviously, that's not going to happen. So
No,
when
it's not,
Democrats are
because it's not
engaging
okay
in
to kill
that, because
someone.
when Democrats are engaging with that conversation with Republicans bring up the third trimester stuff, but you guys don't actually care about third trimester.
Why do
You
we not
about-
care?
Because
Your
I'm
side
about to
doesn't.
say because you care about all 3 trimesters. You just
Yes.
use it exactly. So you don't want to ban third trimester abortion. You want to ban all abortion.
yes,
but you
absolutely.
hyperfixate on the third trimester abortion as a way to get
No,
into the
because it's
conversation.
happening because your side denies that it happens, and it does
Even
happen.
if they acknowledge that it happened, or even if they ban third trimester abortion, you guys would still want to get rid of
So
all
you're
abortion.
okay with third trimester abortion?
I'm
Okay,
okay.
pause. Please return to your seats.
W respect.
Number one, I'm a MAGA gangster. I'm outside when it comes to Trump. Have you ever been to a rally?
You're cringe. That's what you are. Cringe. Very cringe.
Yes,
That's number one. I don't know if you book smart or
I've
if
been to
you're
rallies
really
before.
outside, because
I've
I'm
been to
outside.
rallies,
I'm outside. And you basically said MAGAs thrive off of lies. First of all, you ever seen a Trump rally? You don't see all of the unity and love out there?
Nope, I see things
You don't
saying
see
like
unity
deport all
and
the
love.
immigrants, and I see more MAGA flags, and I see,
All
and I
right,
see
so
American
you support,
flags.
all right, let me ask you this. You
Yeah.
support Black Lives Matter?
Not that much.
Black Lives Matter only when media put it out. That's number one. Trump is bringing a lot of unity and love. You support burning and looting. That's what you support.
Don't
And
think
it
that's what I
tripped me
support at
out
all, but-
how you could support Someone.
So yes, talking points. He sounds like an idiot, bro. Oh my gosh. He just like, I'm gonna say the talking points. Oh, I've been preparing. I've been preparing all this stuff. I'm BLM. You support BLM? No, I don't. You love BLM. Yeah. Unity, power. Let me get my blunt. Get rid of all the illegals. Come on. Got my collar. Got my collar. Yeah. Shut up.
That just want the world to just go crazy, burning and looting. And I heard you say something earlier that's crazy. You said you hate America. Talk about that.
I don't think I ever said I hate America.
Yes, you did.
You said it as a joke.
And it made me look at you even
When did I
more.
say hate?
You
In what
You
context?
said it earlier. You said it earlier.
I don't
said
think
it
so.
as a joke.
I think I said that
And that's why
I
Trump is
like
gonna make
America. I
America
like
great
America.
again.
I don't think
Trump
MAGA people like America. I don't think you guys have any idea what it
Destiny, this is what happens when you talk too fast. It happens to me sometimes. You say like a quitty remark after you hear something stupid and you don't remember you said it. You did say it. It was a joke. Grabbing onto it is stupid. Obviously, it was a joke. I mean, you can't. I don't need to. I don't need to prove the double standard. It's so obvious. You did say it though, but it was a joke. Obviously,
what it means to be American. I don't think you know what American values are. I don't think you know what this country was founded or built upon. And I think you guys are obsessed with a cult leader who is taking the entire Republican Party off of a cliff.
Everything he say he do. Trump is gangster. Remember.
Can you give me one thing you don't like about Trump?
What I don't like about him, I love everything about him.
I know, because it's a cult. Thank you.
It's not a cult.
W cult.
I'm from,
cult.
no, it's not
That's
a cult. Everything is a cult if you want to think about it.
Of course it is.
Everything is a cult.
Everything
Can
is
say
a
somebody
cult.
in a cult? That's probably true, yeah.
He's someone that's representing, and Kamala Kumala, whatever her name is, she out of here. Trump 2024. Let's go.
Yeah, of course. MAGA's gonna clap for that. Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
Jenny, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So you think that people that support Trump are in a cult. Why is that?
I feel like Donald Trump is basically untouchable. He can do no wrong. The entire conservative party is basically centered around Donald Trump. Any person that goes against Donald Trump, it can be so many people. Everybody still looks at all of those people around him as being the fault and never Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was in office, it was because of the swamp. When people like Barr turned against him, it was because he was a rhino. When people like McCarthy didn't, like carry his banner, it's because he's a rhino. People like it's this labeling of every single person around this is a bad guy is, oh, those people are rhinos and Trump is great and Trump can,
Exactly.
can do no wrong.
Couldn't say it better myself.
I think that's false. I don't think Trump
Of course
is a
you do.
perfect human being. I think anybody out here that's voting for Trump knows that he is not innocent. No top businessman, no top politician got to the top without getting their
Some
hands
guy
dirty.
just said
I think
that
what
he-
we're all voting for is based on his policies. I think he prioritizes the economy. I think he stands for women's rights, and that is something that's very, very important to me. Do you think that Trump likes women? Do you think he respects them at all?
Yeah, Trump loves women. I don't know if he respects them. When we say
Really?
that
You
people
don't think
support, no.
Why not?
I think the types of statements alone that he makes about women, I think, call that into question.
There's no way you can say he respects women based off what he has said about a woman. Though, if you hear the full quote of how he says he grabbed her by a pussy, that's one of the most derogatory ways to talk about a woman I've seen, man. I mean, I indulge in sexual activities quite a bit, and I'll never talk like that to my friend about a woman. That's crazy. He thought of her as an object that he could just do whatever she wants with. So, saying Donald Trump respects women, like, come on. Let's be honest.
But you said earlier that people support Trump because of his policies. I don't think that's true because I don't even know what policies of Trump that nobody even talks about them.
Oh, really? He posted on his Twitter, he posted that like 20 promises he's going to make to America. He's going to make trans women competing in women's sports illegal. I think that is something that needs to be said, that he does support women in that
Are these things that are these like the most important issues to you?
I think so.
Okay.
I am a woman after all. At least I know
You're
I
competing
am.
a lot of NCAA or whatever athletic events?
I attended San Jose State. I graduated from there. You do realize that there is a transgender person that's on that volleyball team and nobody
He cares about women because of transgender stuff. Now, Destiny, I think this is an easy one to concede in the sense that you also agree with me that transgender women should not be in transgender men should not be in women's sport, or transgender women should not be in men's sports, all that stuff. But just because Donald Trump attaches himself to that, that means he cares about women. I mean, that's stupid. Simple as that.
on that team was told that there was a transgender woman on there.
I didn't know this was the largest issue in the election for you. It just seems like a pretty minor thing
I
altogether.
think women's
but-
rights in general is a big thing.
Okay, but not the right to an abortion.
So you talk about misinformation, but you've given us a ton of misinformation right now. You said, seems like nobody in MAGA even wants to talk about any of the issues of Donald Trump. Had multiple debaters come up, talk to you about multiple economic policies, compare and contrast them with Kamala, gave you great reason.
I don't think I heard any economic policy from Trump when he was in 4 years.
Okay,
What were
okay.
his economic
No,
policies?
back up. Now you're switching the claim. So what you just claimed is I don't hear MAGA people talk about this at all.
I don't think I heard any
That's
policies
what
were
you
brought up.
said,
Yeah.
and yes, they did. They
What were
brought
they?
up the capital gains policies. They also brought
What were the
up
capital
they
gains
also brought up tariffs. They brought up the tariff policies. They brought up multiple economic policies. Total misinfo.
They brought up tariffs and the tax act, I believe. I think that's all they brought up. So multiples too. Two double that doesn't even follow the definition. That's like a few. That's like multiple. I guess more than is multiple more than one. I'm not playing semantics. I'm not
Total
gonna lie.
misinfo for you to say they didn't. They absolutely did. Are you disputing that nobody here brought up any policies of Donald
I think that when you're talking policies from somebody, if the only thing you have are tariffs, it's not really a strong policy foundation.
I'm sorry. Did you use the word any? You don't hear anybody talk about that?
Speaking like a human being right now.
Oh, but when
right?
Donald Trump speaks
So
like a
when
human
he-
being, he's a
Donald
liar.
Trump doesn't speak like a human being.
Yeah, he's
a moron.
Anytime.
I'm sorry, but Donald Trump speaks like an
So
idiot.
would you
Yeah.
say it's misinformation, for instance? Is it misinformation when you say that a firefighter
Andrew
who got
Wilson's a tool.
murdered at a rally, when you laugh at that and you say that that's totally fine, are you spreading
that?
I
misinformation?
don't know if
Are
I said
you?
that's totally fine. I think I said I don't really have any sympathy.
No,
for
you,
people
no,
who
you
get
didn't. You
upset
laughed about it. You thought it was funny. You didn't give a shit. You were under fire on Twitter for it for weeks until you finally backed
about it.
away.
You can go I haven't backed away from any of those statements.
Yeah.
You can go find the
You
people
haven't
want.
backed away from any of them?
No, not at all.
You don't care that the guy died, right?
People died. Rally
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, you don't care.
When this side is involved
But you
in
care
some
about
of the most
misinfo?
violent, divisive. Here's a
You
question.
care about misinfo?
Andrew Wilson's a bot, bro. He's such a bot. All he cares about gotcha is to make himself look smarter than he actually is. He's such a bot, bro.
Here's a question. That does not do with misinfo. Here's a question.
I'll
wait.
explain how it's
Do you
misinfo.
disavow any of the
Let me-
rhetoric about Paul
let-
Pelosi? Do you
let
disavow
me-
any of the rhetoric about Paul Pelosi?
What? Even if I made any outrageous claim possible, has nothing to do with your claim, which
Do you
is what
disavow
we're
any of the,
talking
do you
about. We're
disavow
talking
any
about
of
your
the,
claim.
no,
Stop
he doesn't.
switching.
He doesn't, of course not.
Stop
He doesn't
switching
acknowledge
the
what happened on
goalposts.
January 6th. He doesn't acknowledge
And your
before.
filibuster.
So Andrew Wilson, all he does is go talks about what you say. He doesn't care about anything he says. He has no accountability. He doesn't care about anything his side does. He just criticizes you and what you say. He's one of the worst type of people. He's like a movie critic that brings out terrible movies, but just still criticizes people who make terrible movies. He's like one of the worst people. I hate people like this. They are so dangerous. Not dangerous. They are so pathetic. They could be dangerous.
Turning away FEMA right now because they are convinced that the federal government's going to take their houses.
Stop spurging.
You are, yeah, you
Stop
just all the time.
spurging and
You
answer
can say
to
stop
the
spurging over and over
question.
again. I'm not here to
I'm
talk
going
about
to.
my tweets,
Are
but if that's what you
ever-
really want to
are
talk about,
you-
you do it. I've
are you
tweeted
going
crazier
to
shit than that, I
acknowledge
promise.
Are you going to acknowledge that you said totally fine? You didn't care. You just said right now you don't
No,
care.
fine. You can look at all my
How
tweets.
is it now? Let me explain how
What does
it's.
that do with
Can
misinformation?
I explain how it's misinformation?
Okay.
Because don't you think that if you make claims like Donald Trump is un-American, Donald Trump doesn't like the Constitution, and then you have an assassin come, he tries to kill Donald J. Trump at a rally, another American dies. Aren't you spreading misinformation by saying to people this is okay? Isn't that
I don't think
un-American?
I've ever said this
That
is
Isn't
okay.
it
I've said
un-American?
over and over again that there shouldn't be any political violence in the United
that's
States. It's not good. You
That's
can laugh.
great.
You guys are the ones that
Donald
support
Trump
it.
said that at
You
January
guys deny
6th.
it.
He said it during January
After
6th.
he sat and watched it happen for 3
Oh,
hours.
well, after
when
the
he was
guy died,
only
now you're
person.
sorry about your rhetoric.
Who said I was sorry?
Yeah, you're not
Excuse me.
sorry,
Please stop
exactly.
projecting onto me.
Not
I never said I was sorry
sorry
about
at all.
anything.
Yeah, you don't
I've not said that. Yeah, unlike you, I have a spine over the things that I say, okay? Number one.
okay.
Number two, Donald Trump and your side are the ones that have engaged in divisive rhetoric for years. This idea that saying Donald Trump is un-American when Donald Trump himself says that he'd be a day one dictator
Divisive
and
rhetoric
he would
is fine.
suspend the Constitution. I'm sorry,
No,
if the divisive
there's a
rhetoric
difference
is
between
quoting
divisive
Donald Trump
rhetoric and
against you,
assassinating
that's
the guy.
Donald Trump's problem. Maybe he
Your
should
rhetoric
say
has
that
led to
un-American.
Your rhetoric. Andrew Wilson is a bot. He's such
Assassination
a bot.
attempt of America.
I don't want to hear. I
5-minute
don't want to hear this guy
extension.
talk anymore. He's such a bot.
All right, I want to go back to kind of your original claim, which
Disinformation.
Well, can you restate your original claim?
I think MAGA thrives on disinformation. They are in a totally different reality now than they ever have been.
So that actually wasn't your original claim. Your original claim was that
The MAGA movement wouldn't exist without the amount of disinformation. Yeah, something
Right.
like that.
Okay. So how can you possibly know that?
Well, I can't know all possible worlds if they wouldn't.
Right. Exactly. So right off the bat, your initial claim is false.
No,
okay,
you
well,
can't
this is a
prove
philosophy
a
101
claim
class, and you
false.
completely and totally debunked me, sir. Yeah.
Wow. Great. I've debunked. Great. Well, so great. Your initial claim is false. Glad you can admit that. Now you want to go to the disinformation topic. Well, one, I think a lot of the rhetoric.
Bro, the MAGA are children. They are children. Yeah, how could you possibly know that? Just like how you don't know if Donald Trump went into office instead of Joe Biden in 2020, how he would fix the economy, how no wars would happen. Just like how you guys wouldn't know that. It's a claim based off what you know about a person. Like, come on.
that you're spewing
circumstantial,
is very
superficial.
divisive for our nation because
a lot of the times you're assuming people's intentions on these things, right? You're assuming that people are purposefully ignorant when you're in no position to actually know something like that.
I don't know if people are purposely ignorant or not. Actually, unironically, I hold the individuals a lot less accountable than I do the content creators.
Well, but you don't talk to people like that.
Well, I usually am talking to content creators. Even most of the people in here, I think, are like on TikTok or something else. I've seen a lot of these faces.
Okay, so that's an assumption without any evidence.
Hold on, are you saying that I'm assuming without evidence that most of the people that I talk to tend to be like
No, most of the people in this room. That's what you're assuming.
Okay.
So anyways,
He's trying so hard to get some wins.
You're assuming the intentions of these
little
people,
child,
and that's
bro.
not true. You're assuming that we're part of this MAGA cult, which is not true at all.
I mean, the guy here earlier literally said that Trump.
Well,
did
okay,
no wrong.
well, maybe some people, right? And I don't believe that Trump can do no wrong, and I think most Republicans believe that, right? I'm disgusted by
that's
some
easy
of
to
his
say
personal
when someone
behavior.
actually said
I
it,
think
but-
his stance is on abortion. He's
Okay,
way too
pause.
far left.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Hey, well, your original claim was false, so that's great to hear.
Child. He acts like a little hot middle schooler.
So
I got my
you made
W.
the claim that MAGA wouldn't exist or Make America wouldn't exist without
All the misinformation,
misinformation. Obviously not a true statement. I think you just admitted that.
Well, I mean, likely they would. I can't prove that 100%.
Okay, and I mean, and it started way back during the Reagan years, so you know that.
I think it's accelerated a lot with social media, and it's accelerated a lot under Trump and MAGA.
Okay,
Because Trump is the first guy that just lies with impunity, and there's no accountability on the conservative side when he does.
So speaking of people who who believe in MAGA, it seems like
The
based off
fact
the
that he
rhetoric
tried to say, "Oh, you already admitted you're wrong," from a sarcastic joke. MAGA, bro, that's tough,
that
man.
you have said.
Get the W when you
all
can.
All of the people in here and the millions of people who are kind of fall into that umbrella of believing in Make America Great Again. You act like we're some cult and we're some evil people. All of us are human. Every person in this room.
Yeah, I don't care.
Asylum
You're
seekers
so
are
cold.
human.
People in
Just
cults
you
are
guys talk
human.
about
Can you
deporting
stop
people
interrupting me?
into
I'm
them,
talking.
so-
I'm talking.
Yeah, you're
I'm talking. I'm
I don't
talking.
care,
I'm
yeah.
talking. I'm talking.
Okay, so am I.
Let's be respectful.
I don't have to be.
So everyone here in this room is human, and people who are Make America Great Again and who go to these Trump rallies love each other and love other
Acts
people
like a
and love
child.
humans.
No,
and
you
wanna,
don't. You
they
don't
wanna
love
see
each
the
other.
betterment of society and betterment.
No,
of
you don't. No, you don't. You don't. Stop.
everybody in
Stop.
this country.
Act like a little child. Jesus Christ.
What's up, Steve?
Grow up.
Okay. So again, I think that the misinformation is far more rampant on your side. Kamala Harris'
What are like
entire
three big misinformation? Okay.
Project 2025. Huge misinformation. Not Trump's
What's the
plan.
misinformation? Trump's Vance probably supports it. I think Trump broadly
Is
supports a lot of
Trump
the-
Vance?
Vance?
Yeah, you can say he supports a lot of
He's
things.
his
That doesn't mean he
presidential
supports the
candidate.
plan. Yeah, okay. Can VPs and presidents disagree with each other?
I guess Pence and him disagree quite a bit.
Okay,
I
great.
guess.
That's fine. Okay, and there have been plenty of examples in the past, like McKinley and Roosevelt disagreed staunchly. Okay, so this is not rare. Project 2025 is Kamala Harris's primary talking point, and it is not Trump's agenda. Trump has his own agenda published on his website, Agenda 47. There are some overlaps there. He agrees with some things in that project, but not all of them. The primary one being, again, Kamala Harris's biggest talking point, which is that Trump is going to institute a national abortion ban, which he has publicly disavowed.
Well, I think the problem was for a long time, I don't think he would say no to that, although I think he has said that he
said
wouldn't
no,
vote on it.
over and
No.
over again. He said no.
I've heard him go back and forth on it. Personally, I don't like the Project 2025 talking point. I think it's kind of cringe. I
You
don't
think
know
it's
if
misinformation?
Would I go as far as to call it misinformation? I'm not sure.
Why?
But even if I would call
Why
it
wouldn't you call it
misinformation,
misinformation,
because it's written by a conservative think tank.
Okay, so
It's
what?
broadly
So
stated.
who
Hold
cares?
on.
So what?
Yeah, well, I might say that if even if I were to grant that as to be misinformation, it's nowhere near on the level of Haitians are eating cats and dogs.
Okay. Do you think that I actually argue totally the opposite, right? I think that it definitely is on that level, considering she's prescribing Trump's entire policy platform, trying to claim that Trump's entire policy platform is something that it isn't, and there are lots of things that Republicans disagree in that policy
Donald
platform,
Trump, if he wanted,
and it's a lie.
And if Donald Trump wanted to fight against it, maybe he could just have a policy platform. And they just
He does have a policy platform.
Doesn't
Agenda
have a policy.
47. It's on
He
his
doesn't-
website.
Yeah, I've read it.
Yeah, he
It's
does.
a joke. It's things like we're going to bring down the interest rates. He can't even do that
That's
as
the same thing with
president.
Kamala Harris's policy platform.
No, she can't
Her
bring down
entire
interest
section
rates.
on housing is 4 paragraphs.
Yeah, but she can't bring down interest rates. At the very least, there's some solid stuff there, even if I think it's a little bit too far.
Sure,
to
but
the left of me.
are you saying there's no policy proposals at all?
I'm saying that Donald Trump, when Donald Trump speaks, he doesn't talk
It's more
policy
fleshed out
ever.
than her plan.
No,
for
I
sure.
don't think so.
Okay. Her entire housing section is 4 paragraphs, and one of them
I think
I
Donald
would
Trump's
hardly
is
count as
one.
a paragraph.
I think it's one paragraph.
All right, guys.
Why do you actually are probably one of the, you're no, not probably, you are one of the most educated and knowledgeable persons here. Why do you keep on going last? Like, go
Well, 4
first.
times better.
Okay, please return to your seat.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you know what? This one, right over here.
He had Michael Knowles.
You'll break my heart the most because you sound somewhat reasonable, intelligent, but you just say the craziest things, and yeah. So now I'm just gonna try to figure out for 10 minutes if you really believe it or if you're hardcore just carrying water for some political side.
So, Stephen, my claim is that President Biden should pardon President Trump.
Oh
no matter
my
who wins the
God.
election, President Biden ran on unity when he came and gave that inauguration speech on January 20th, 2021. He wanted to unify the country. The best way for President Biden to leave office is to pardon President Trump and to try to bring the country together. I think as a MAGA movement, 75 million people may look at Biden and say, look, we have our political disagreements with this guy. But the fact that he pardoned Trump, much like Gerald Ford did, much like there's examples in our country of folks reaching across the aisle and doing it,
Interesting.
at that point,
So that's
I
their
think you could probably argue
strategy?
that
Trying
Trump
to
has the
get
authority to
Trump
pardon
a
himself.
pardon?
Largely, these cases will drop if he doesn't win the election. But I think it would be a very powerful signal for the unity of the country for President Biden to pardon him.
I think there are at least 3 really good reasons why that should absolutely never happen.
Okay.
So the first one is Donald Trump doesn't need to be pardoned because the Supreme Court's already said that the president can enjoy full and absolute criminal immunity when he's doing his job. So if he's already gotten that carve out from the Supreme Court, well, why should he need any more help to be pardoned for any other types of crimes unless we're saying that he did crimes that weren't even part of the job of being the president? I would say that's the first one. Do you want to do the other two? You want to go okay. The other two, the second one is I think that Donald Trump has done abhorrent things in the abuse of office that I think he absolutely should be accountable for. I think that he should answer for these things. I think it's destructive to lead this idea that you can act above the law and get away with it. And I think for the third point, the idea that Democrats have to be the ones that continue to come to the table and be like, okay, we're going to do this, or okay, we're going to try to heal, and okay, we're going to do unity. When you've got Biden up here, you know, saying like, I'm going to be a president for everybody, I'm going to do unity, and then Donald Trump is saying things like immigrants are the poison to the lifeblood of this nation, like crazy stuff like this. Like the back and forth of conservatives being unhinged and Democrats having to like apologize for behavior. I don't like the double standard anymore. I don't think you can exist inside of it.
Okay, let's talk about President Biden and the
You
unity.
told me
You
to pick
do
my nose?
agree that he ran on
Sorry.
a platform of unity. And
Absolutely.
It was the theme of his inauguration.
Yes.
We can both agree
Yep.
on that, right, Stephen?
Yep.
You guys
He
can
called
grill me in the
MAGA
comments.
Republicans a threat to democracy. Was that a sign of unity?
That speech absolutely is. And
Really?
yes.
Why
if you
so?
read the whole speech, he says over and over again, in a totally pointless manner, because, and I'm aware, because I'm part of the TikTok culture as well, he said over and over again, not even most Republicans are MAGA Republicans. When he said MAGA Republicans, he was talking about the subsection of people that deny the results of the last election, that don't even believe in things like institutions or peaceful transfers of power or the country operating as like a cohesive unit. He spells out over and over again that he's not talking about all conservatives, but people just clip that one line and then the picture with the red behind him and say, oh my God, look what he was saying.
As a matter of fact, though, 72% of Republicans believe that there were serious issues in the 2020 election, just as a matter of
but
empirical
why do they
fact.
believe that?
Well, but just as a matter of empirical fact. So you got 70% of 75 million people believe that. You are still making a very wide and sweeping statement about working class Americans, black, white, Hispanic Americans, saying that they're a threat to democracy.
I don't know if all of them necessarily don't believe like hardcore that there was like voter rigging as opposed to the media was biased or something because Trump kind of used to dance around those claims.
Sure.
But for as much as people believe that there were issues with the election, it's because Donald Trump told them. That's it. Like, and a lot of the lies that started out in the Trump camp, we know now were completely and wholly fabricated. Everything having to do with that State Farm video was a total lie from the very beginning. Everything having to do with Dominion voting machines was a total lie from the very beginning. There are so many of these claims that when you look at the genesis of them, they were either fabricated or were maliciously constructed.
But doesn't President Biden have an obligation to be a president for all Americans, even those who vehemently disagree with him?
When you say vehemently disagree, yes, but for people that don't believe in the results of the election, this is the issue, is that conservatives have pushed the boundaries of what you can tolerate in a society that can function together, right? If a conservative wants to come out and say, I think that we need small government and I don't believe in the government, you know, providing all this relief and all this or whatever, and I think we should have small government or whatever, okay, I disagree with that, that's fine, whatever. We can still exist together and we can argue, okay? But when people are saying, I'm not, there was a phone call into a radio show where the guy's talking about his father-in-law is turning away FEMA because he thinks that FEMA is going to steal his house. We're breaking down institutions to a point to where we can't function. We need institutions as much as we might hate them. We need them to function, and conservatives spend every breath undermining them, and that is becoming dysfunctional. I don't know what you're supposed to do in that circumstance.
Well, I think what you can do is, and I'm not saying this isn't without risk, there's certainly some negative optics to it, but I would say that gesture, I'll tell
like
you,
his tone.
you take away the
He
ammunition
very
from one
speaks
side,
very
you say,
matter
I'm
of
going to
fact and
extend the olive
intelligent.
branch.
It's a calm and tone.
And by the way, even if
He's
it's purely
Michael
ceremonial and
Knowles.
symbolic, even if the president can end up pardoning himself, even if President Trump wins, then the question becomes, why doesn't Biden do that as a symbol of genuine unity? Genuine unity.
I don't think there is an olive branch that would be accepted. I don't think anybody would see it as any type of. I think that arguably, I've seen back and forth on this, that Merrick Garland probably dragged his feet on prosecuting Trump and in appointing Jack Smith and in all the charges that were filed. And that was a massive mistake, that he shouldn't have waited on that should have been something he moved much quicker on. But because of this obsession with liberals and media to appear unbiased and to be nice to both sides and to treat both sides equally, even when, in my opinion, obviously one side is acting far more recklessly, it's destroying the country. We talked about Israel-Palestine earlier. We can talk about like children in the store. When somebody is acting inappropriately or they're acting out of line or they're behaving in a way that is unsustainable, that behavior has to be brought in line somehow. You cannot run a ship when half the people are trying to row in the other direction. And right now, conservatives are undermining every single facet of this country. And I don't know how we're supposed to function in that environment, right? Where we say like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and pardon Trump. What if we pardon Trump and then he just commits more crimes? Or what if we pardon Trump and then the next Republican president goes, well, I can probably get away with it because they're going to cuck out for unity in the end, so it'll be great, right? What do you do at that point?
I disagree with you on conservatives threatening the country. I would even say that Democrats don't threaten the country. I think most Americans want a secure border, an economy that works for everybody, good education. To your point about, quibbles over tax policy and regulation, do you believe that a supporter of the deportation of illegal migrants falls into that category of a radical conservative?
I think that's a radical position, but I don't think that's like a beyond the pale position.
Okay.
I think it's done for a variety of reasons, but no, I don't think it's beyond the pale.
Right, and I mean, look, Axios Ipsos found this in April that 55% of Americans, not just conservatives, Americans support the mass deportation of illegal migrants. 46% of Democrats do. Why do you think that is when you look at places like Chicago and New York? Why longtime
I think it can be for a
Democrats?
variety of reasons, but again, this isn't an issue. It's like the minimum wage. I think that we probably need a minimum wage, but I don't think that agreeing or disagreeing on this makes it un-American. Same thing with like abortion,
Right.
which is way more charged. I don't think it makes you un-American. Things like immunity for crimes for the president, that's a deeply un-American value, that the president can't be charged with criminal behavior, even in the role of his job. That, in my opinion, that's deeply un-American. The undermining of all the institutions, that America should have no role as like a world leader, that the way that we look at immigrants as enemies, or that we don't want to trade with anybody because you just want to, these things are, not, I wouldn't say the trade thing. I would say that like the immunity thing are a really big one. The idea of America needing to recede from the world is a big one. The idea of like the weaponizing of all of the DOJ that Trump wants to do, these are things that deeply concern me. Talking about terminating the Constitution and all of these things, yeah.
So we can have our disagreements. There's a lot there we could pick up. We've only got a couple minutes left.
Yeah, you're good. Or do
But you are an American. I'm an American. I believe that you love this country. I believe that you want the best for this country, the best for your family. Donald Trump wins on November 5th. Genuinely, what is one piece of advice you give him?
If Donald Trump wins, what is one piece of advice that you give him? Donald Trump, after he's gone, will have family members that remain in this world, that carry his name through the world. He will have a legacy, he'll have a reputation, and that the way that he acts in his last 4 years as president will be remembered for the rest of history, for as long as America continues to exist, and that he has an opportunity in his second term at least to right some of the wrongs of the first term, or to prove people like me wrong at least when I said that the United States would become an authoritarian hellhole or whatever else. That he has an opportunity to prove people like me wrong, and I hope that he would take advantage of that.
I think that'd be great. I think that would be great for the country, to tell you the truth. Is there one policy, one position that you agree with Donald Trump on? Even remotely?
The problem is I just don't like his thought process. So there are going to be things that we agree on, but like we're going to agree on them for totally different
What's an
reasons.
example
I think. Like in general, I'm not as big on like DEI or affirmative action type stuff. I think for a variety of reasons has a lot of different issues. I think that having a secure border is really important. Arguably one of the most important things about having a country is having a border. I think the Democrats like broadly agree with that as well. I think that. Yeah, I could probably find other things, but like our agreements are going to be very roundabout. We're not getting here the same way. But I think the creation of the Space Force was good. I obviously all the conservatives hate it, but I thought Warp Speed was a tremendous achievement of capitalism, of pharmaceuticals, of the United States and U.S. leadership. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think the big picture though, and can we give him a round of applause?
No, I don't want a round of applause.
I would have won a round
I'm a
of
big
applause either.
believer,
That's just
Stephen,
empty
that when we come together as a
applause.
country and have conversations, difficult conversations like this, we may not walk away saying, well, I agree with Stephen, or I agree with James, or I agree with any of the folks here, but you walk away saying, that's a person, that's an American, we can disagree agreeably, and I might understand for just a moment their perspectives. I want to thank you for being here. I think that the biggest thing for the country going forward, in a sense, is how do we have more debate, not less, more disagreement, not less?
Unfortunately, I totally disagree with you.
Yeah.
I was there a while ago. It's not enough to just have conversations anymore. I think we have to start taking steps in an actual direction. I think right now we are talking ourselves off a ledge. And I notice a lot of times when I have challenging conversations with people, I get all of these comments that pop up, whether it's me talking to Peterson, Shapiro, Owens, of like, what a great civil conversation. But at the end of the day, nobody's mind comes away changed, and everybody still feels the same way. And we're still accelerating off of each other faster than we ever have been before. But at least we're having good conversations on the way down to the base of the cliff, I guess.
Well, let me end.
It's a start.
Let me end on a bipartisan note, Stephen. Let's not just make debate great again. Let's build it back better.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
I think I did about as well as I could have. I mean, there's always more like itty-bitty pieces of factual information that I could have, but it's hard to keep track of everything. But yeah, I think it was okay. Maybe I could have been meaner to some people, but I'm okay.
I think that James did really well. I think that Destiny himself did really well too. I think that Destiny is probably the best debater in the space on either side. So I think that we did really well against him considering that fact. I think that debate is important, I guess kind of counter to what Destiny thinks, even though
He is very smart. Overall, I think some MAGAs did well. I think some MAGAs were just drones, of course. They didn't really have much to say. The only point that I really thought was very interesting and worth some weight is the Asylum one, about they are trying to escape persecution. Do they necessarily need to be in the country to do that? Is a very interesting one. I'm not mad at that point. Other than that, everything else was Trump talking points and lies and gotchas and all that stuff. So with that said, let me know what y'all think about this. Vote Kamala Harris. Do not vote for Donald Trump. With that said, hope you guys enjoyed. You have a good one. Take care. Peace.